subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
And change the topic. By the way, I just borrowed your kitchen to use. I've already prepared the food. Tonight we have a small team gathering to celebrate Wendy's joining and your return. Mo Bai got off the donkey along the slope and agreed. No problem. No problem. I've wanted to get together for a long time. Not long after, fruit and vegetable platters and cooked meats are brought to the table. Erza's cooking skills are remarkable. Not much worse than Myra's, but she rarely shows them off. During the banquet, Wendy seemed to suddenly remember something and looked slightly hesitant. It wasn't until a moment later that he plucked up the courage to look at Mo Bai sitting opposite him. Master Mo Bai, there is something. Mo Bai smiled wryly and waved his hand. Don't be so polite, Wendy. Just call me by my name. Wendy still behaved unnaturally. Well, I heard that you are also a dragon slayer. I would like to ask you, have you ever heard of the sky dragon named Grandine? Tianlong Grandine. Mo Bai fiddled with a knife and fork in his hand, thinking about how to explain. He really knows the answer to this question. Same as the fire dragon Igneel and the iron dragon Metallicana, who raised Nazgajuru. The heavenly dragon Grandine also hides in Wendy's body to guard her silently, preventing Wendy from completely transforming into a dragon due to excessive use of dragon-slaying magic. However, Natsu and the others are not yet strong enough to protect themselves. It was obviously not time to tell them the truth. Before Mo Bai could speak, Naz's attention was attracted first. Wendy, the dragon Grandine who raised you also suddenly disappeared on July 7th. 777, right? Wendy suddenly became excited. Yes, it was that day. Do you know any clues about her? Natsu looked miserable and pointed helplessly at Mo Bai beside him. Ask Mo Bai, he knows. I competed with him before, and he said that as long as I win, he will tell me the whereabouts of Igneel, but Gaji Luga and I couldn't defeat him. At this point, Natsu changed the subject. But I am practicing seriously every day. I believe that one day I will be able to defeat him in a duel and let him tell the dragon's clues personally. But Wendy obviously didn't have as much fighting spirit as Natsu, and she was immediately discouraged. Do you have to become that kind of powerful magician? Wendy was not good at fighting to begin with, and she also performed some auxiliary and therapeutic tasks in the team. This requirement seems to be elusive but always out of reach for her. Mo Bai smiled calmly, reached out his hand and gently touched Wendy's head and said, "That's a request for them, Wendy. Don't worry, you are different from Natsugajuru. When you grow up to the age of Sister Erza, I will tell you the whereabouts of Grandine." Really? Hope appeared on Wendy's face again. Next to him, Natsu was furious. This isn't fair. How come Wendy can get the dragon's information without fighting? Mo Bai ignored his protest and pushed a plate of papaya in front of Wendy, saying softly, "Of course, I won't lie to you," looking at the papaya on the plate. In an instant, Wendy seemed to understand what Mo Bai meant. He secretly glanced at the 2 hints of pride on Erza's chest, and then looked at his own smoothness. Wendy's pink little face suddenly turned redder than a ripe apple. It turns out that this is what I meant. Seems like there is no chance. Rather than getting bigger, it seems easier to defeat Mo Bai head-on. The food core is gone. The cups and plates were in a mess. Several people were still unfinished, but it was finally time for the banquet to end. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Mo Bai stood at the door, waved goodbye to Naz and others, and watched them leave one by one. In the blink of an eye, only he and Erza were left. Mo Bai joked, "If you don't want to leave, there are a lot of empty rooms in my house. Or, do you want to squeeze in with me?" Erza smiled lightly and shook her head. Naturally, she knew he was joking. She turned back to look at the messy dining table and said, "It looks like it's quite a mess. Do you want me to clean it up with you?" "No need. I could do it myself." "All right." There was a hint of tact in Erza's eyes, and she was about to leave when Mo Bai suddenly asked again, "I noticed that every time there is a large banquet held in the guild, you don't seem to participate much." Erza said hesitantly, Although I love the guild very much, but if it is too lively and noisy, maybe I won't be able to adapt. This was the first time that Mo Bai realized that Erza had this kind of personality. His brain became hot, and he blurted out, "Then I will accompany you at the next banquet." As soon as these words came out, looking at each other, Mo Bai felt as if time had stopped at this moment. These few seconds passed extremely long. After regaining her composure, Erza sighed softly, and her eyes became a little softer. "There's no need to accompany me. Just have fun. It's getting late, and I should go back to the girl's apartment." Watching her leaving figure, Mo Bai also muttered, "Did I say something wrong just now?" Chapter 60, I must be dreaming. Back inside the house, looking at the messy dining table and the messy room, Mo Bai suddenly felt tired in his heart. Procrastination occurs. Forget it. Let's clean it up tomorrow morning. I have to go to the magic dreamland later to do some work. Don't be too tired before going to bed. It's better to take a bath to relax first. I remember Kath said that drinking moderately can lead to a better experience. When he first moved into the villa, the landlord seemed to have left him a bottle of fine wine. "Just put it in the kitchen." Recalling the scene where Kana made a fuss about getting drunk at noon, Mo Bai made up his mind to try with half a glass of wine. "You can't let Erza block the bar for you every time?" Coming to the kitchen, Mo Bai took out the wine bottle from the cabinet and pulled out the cork, and the dark purple liquid trickled out. Different from the water of life that Kana tricked into drinking at the Harvest Festival banquet, this time the wine had a little more mellow aroma. It does seem to be a good wine. Mo Bai immediately relaxed his vigilance, grabbed the cup, and drank it in one gulp. Well, vomit. Unlike the intense spiciness of the water of life, this liquid that looks like grape juice does not have any sweet or sour taste. On the contrary, it is bitter and astringent, with a hint of alcohol. If it weren't for the fact that the dream later needed a little alcohol, Mo Bai would have almost spit it out. In the end, he swallowed it with force and drank several glasses of boiled water to suppress the bad smell in his mouth. Sure enough, I still can't tolerate wine. Shaking his head helplessly, Mo Bai turned off the light in the living room on the first floor and turned to the bathroom on the second floor. Even before he started renting an apartment, one of the reasons Mo Bai chose this place was the large luxury bath here. Enough room for 6 or 7 people. Now, he has it all to himself. Take off your clothes 3 times, 5 times, 2 times. Soak your body in a pool filled with hot water. Under the shroud of white mist, the fatigue of the past few days seems to be eliminated here. Mo Bai couldn't help but close his eyes comfortably and imagine what would happen in his dream for a while. I wonder what Erza in the magical dream will look like, and how it will be different from reality. Outside the villa, when Erza disappeared from Mo Bai's sight, Mo Bai thought she would return to the girl's apartment, so he didn't pay much attention. But she didn't go back. At this moment, Erza was standing not far outside the villa, staring quietly. It didn't take long before I saw the lights in the house change. The lights on the first floor, where they had just had dinner, went out quickly. The lights on the second floor turned on immediately. Erza smiled bitterly and shook her head. How can it be possible to clean up if the lights are turned off so soon? It seems that he is too tired. Under the moonlight, Qianying, who should have left long ago, turned back and walked step by step towards the villa where Mo Bai lived. The door was ajar. Erza walked in quietly, turned on the lights, and saw the mess in the restaurant at a glance. As expected, Mo Bai didn't take care of himself at all, so he went to prepare for a rest. "Oh, I can only help him." Spotting the cleaning tools in the corner, Erza picked them up and started cleaning them carefully. She looked serious, as if she is the hostess here. It wasn't until 10 minutes later that I straightened up and wiped the sweat from my head. Spotless. Finally packed up. But what puzzled Erza was that during the entire cleaning process, although some noises were made, but there was still no movement upstairs, not to mention seeing Mo Bai coming downstairs. As usual, with Mo Bai's hearing, it is impossible not to notice anything. The disappointment in Erza's heart amplified slightly, and an ominous premonition suddenly arose. What will happen to Mo Bai? Follow the light you just saw and walk upstairs quickly. Soon I arrived in front of the bathroom door. Since I entered the door, he has been there for so long without moving. Is there any accident? Erza hesitated for a moment. Finally, there was a knock on the bathroom door. Mo Bai? Are you in there? At the same time, on the other side of the door, in the bathroom, dong dong, Mo Bai, are you in there? Mo Bai slowly regained consciousness from half asleep and half awake. Then he opened his eyes. Did I just fall asleep? Mo Bai looked at his body, looked around, and found that he was still soaking in the bathtub. The water is still warm. Dong dong, Mo Bai. Can you hear me? Through a door, a low voice reached my ears again. Only then did Mo Bai wake up and carefully recall what had just happened. This voice. Erza? No. She had already returned to the girl's apartment after the party, where I watched her leave. Besides, I seem to have fallen asleep here just now. So, I am actually in a dream now? In that case, I am in a magical dream, right? Outside the door is the Erza that Calf helped me create artificially in my dream. After rational analysis, Mo Bai finally came to a conclusion. That's right, I am dreaming now, and I'm going to see Erza this way later. I have to say that I am still a little nervous and have little expectations. Mo Bai kept taking deep breaths, trying to calm down first. Mo Bai, did you faint inside? Erza's voice became increasingly anxious. Mo Bai adjusted his breathing, leaned on the edge of the bathing pool, and shouted forward, "Please come in." Chapter 61 Mo Xiao Bai. Stand up outside the door. When Erza heard these two words, her hand that was about to continue knocking on the door froze in midair, her face full of confusion. Please come in? Is he letting me in? Perhaps there is really some difficulty? Erza was sure from the bottom of her heart. Mo Bai must have encountered some trouble inside. Resolutely reached out and pushed the door open. Thick white mist suddenly poured out from inside, and hot air hit his cheeks. Although his vision was slightly blurry, he could still see Mo Bai at the end, naked to the waist, taking a bath in the bathtub. Erza quickly opened her legs and ran over. What's the trouble? Approaching Mo Bai. Erza was halfway through speaking, but her throat seemed to be suddenly stuck. The shocked gaze moved downwards. I was too far away just now, so I didn't look carefully. Now that I'm standing in front of him, I realize how candid Mo Bai is. You. In the past, Erza had a bold temperament, and there was a stripper in the team who couldn't fight unless he took off his clothes, so his tolerance level was usually higher. But after seeing Mo Bai's indifferent performance today, Erza suddenly became at a loss. As for Mo Bai, after seeing her such a real reaction, I only felt that it was Kath's credit. Dream magic is so powerful that it actually shaped Erza's personality in the dream so subtly. Mo Bai raised his head and smiled lightly. Let's rub FC case back first. Even though I know it's a dream, I still need to have the sense of ritual. I'll wash myself off first. Besides, it's just the two of us here, so relax. There's no need to wear that bulky armor all the time. Mo Bai finished. Without giving Erza a chance to react, she turned around. Mo Bai is like this, he just needs to close his eyes and wait to enjoy, but Erza has a lot to think about. It feels like he is a little different from usual. Could it be that he thought he was dreaming, and what he is showing now is his true inner thoughts? Sigh, how about just obeying him this time? There won't be any excessive demands in the future. Although I don't know what nonsense Mo Bai is talking about, or what kind of dream, after some psychological struggle, Erza ultimately chose to stay. Change. Golden light flashed. The originally hard armor on his body was replaced with a pink pajamas. Erza took the towel next to the bathtub and gently wiped Mo Bai's back. Mo Bai felt happy, comfortable. This magical dream created by Kath is too real. Even Erza's voice and body touch are no different from reality. In the future, I will have to do more commissions to make money, so I will inevitably visit more often. After a few minutes, Erza's mind was still blank. I don't even know what I am doing now. At this moment, he suddenly felt his wrist being grabbed and raised his beautiful eyes to look. Only then did he realize that Mo Bai had turned around at some point. Erza subconsciously avoided his gaze and responded hesitantly. What's wrong? Mo Bai's palm slipped from Erza Hao's wrist and gradually fell to her fingertips. He gently held her hand and said gently, "In the days to come, I don't want you to always be the fairy queen who carries everything on her shoulders. Sometimes, you can also relieve yourself of the burden and become an ordinary girl. I will help you solve the difficulties you need to face." Okay, normally, Mo Bai would never be able to say these words. But it is a dream after all. and only you know it. In reality, there is no chance to reveal it. Mo Bai didn't speak very fast just now. As word after word passed through her ears, Erza felt an inexplicable, strange feeling in her heart. I don't know what to say in reply. In the end, he just nodded slightly. Mo Bai smiled. The hand holding Erza's was suddenly pulled back toward his body with force. Erza had no defense at all. The body fell forward, and Mo Bai took him into his arms while he was half lying. Huh? Wait. However, Mo Bai didn't pay much attention to this vague resistance, teased Erza's long hair, and said jokingly, "From this point of view, you are very cute." A blush suddenly appeared on Erza's face. "You're also cute when you blush," Mo Bai added. Erza's face turned even redder. However, Mo Bai is not someone who abandons his physical instincts when he gets emotional. The Fairy Queen, who used to be heroic in the past, was now lying in his arms and became a shy little wife. Mo Bai could not contain his excitement. Mo Xiao Bai had already stood up. Before Erza could say anything else, Mo Bai had already leaned over and kissed her gently. Erza's heart beat rapidly and her face felt hot. But his mind was blank. Despite his constant demands, Erza somehow failed to resist. Chapter 62. Dear Queen. The next morning. The sun pierces the eyes. When Mo Bai opened his eyes, he found himself lying on the bed in the bedroom, his head still aching. Is it because of the half glass of wine last night? I feel a little fragmented. I remember I fell asleep while taking a bath, and then I met Erza in the bathroom in my dream. Why are you FG me on the bed? Maybe I came back by myself after taking a shower, but I really have no impression. Wait a minute. There seems to be movement downstairs. Rubbing his sleepy eyes, Mo Bai put on his slippers and walked out of the bedroom step by step. Dining room. Looking at the spotless dining table and the cleanly swept floor, Mo Bai couldn't help but widen his eyes. Did I clean this up while sleepwalking? Mo Bai remembers clearly that he never hired a cleaning lady and usually did the cleaning himself. But everything neat in front of him made him have doubts. Could it be that a conch girl has been here? Mo Bai. A gentle voice came from behind. Mo Bai immediately froze on the spot. Naturally, he was very familiar with this voice. Turn around stiffly. Erza was wearing a black and white maid outfit, holding a plate of exquisitely baked cakes in her left and right hands, and her smile was quite playful and charming. AI. Mo Bai's eyes immediately froze, and he stammered without saying Erza's name. The brain is down. Erza put the 2 plates of cakes on the table with a smile and said softly, "Go and wash your hands first. Breakfast has been prepared for you." Oh. Let the cold water pour on your face over and over again, irritating your skin like crazy. Mo Bai looked at himself in the mirror, gritted his teeth, and pinched his thigh hard. Under the influence of intense pain, he finally came to his senses. This moment is in reality, not a dream. But why is Erza at my house? It was obvious that she had left last night. But why is she acting like that? And she made breakfast for me? I know. She must have gotten up early on purpose and came over from the girls' apartment to cook for me. Thinking of this, Mo Bai punched himself hard in the face in the mirror. Only then did he wake up. The inference just made is too nonsense. The only explanation is that what happened last night was not a dream at all. Let me tell you, why did the feeling at that time feel so real? Mo Bai finally realized that what he thought was a dream when he was half asleep and half awake in the bathhouse was actually reality. Erza must have left and came back last night for some reason. Then he accidentally walked into the bathroom. At the time, I thought it was a dream, and then I said a lot of incomprehensible things. And in the end, Mo Bai collapsed on the ground helplessly. Spicy pills. What needs to be faced will eventually have to be faced. A long while. Mo Bai finally dragged his legs like lead, moved his body with difficulty, and returned to the dining table step by step, sitting stiffly like a not-so-intelligent robot. Erza on the opposite side looked at her calmly, as if nothing had happened. I heard Mira say before that you seem to like the cream cake she made. It seems that our tastes are quite similar. As Erza spoke, she pushed the dinner plate in front of her in the direction of Mo Bai. Try it, please. This is what I made this morning. In the past, Mo Bai would have gone up and devoured it. Just now, it seems there are more important things that need to be discussed first. And Mo Bai took a deep breath, calmed down his mind, and said slightly solemnly, Erza, I will be responsible for what happened last night. No, Erza said in response while chewing the cake in small bites. Ah, and Mo Bai was shocked. I don't understand what no use means at all. Swallow the cake in your mouth. Erza sighed softly, her eyes softened, and she said slowly, Mo Bai, although I also have a crush on you. But once we become a couple, life will change more or less. I still like my current life better. I can live in the girls' apartment and work with you. Natsu, Gray, Lucy, and Wendy as teammates. So please give me some time. Before the relationship really develops to that point, I still want to keep it like this and think about our affairs later. Mo Bai listened silently. In the final analysis, what happened last night happened too suddenly, and Erza was obviously not prepared. What pleased Mo Bai the most was that Erza didn't mind too much. After getting along with her these days, she also developed feelings for him. What Erza said was not unreasonable, and even somewhat coincided with Mo Bai's thoughts. Mo Bai also prefers life in this state. If both of them go one step further, they will have a lot to worry about. There seems to be no reason to refuse. Mo Bai nodded slightly. Seeing that Mo Bai agreed, Erza also had a faint smile on her face. Let's eat the cake first, and we'll go back to the guild together later. But Mo Bai shook his head resolutely. As for the guild, let's go later. What's wrong? Erza asked. Mo Bai remained silent, biting off most of the cake in front of him, then quietly activated the dragon-slaying power in his body, and illusory wings suddenly appeared from his back. Before Erza could react, Mo Bai had already rushed forward and hugged her body, then jumped out of the French window and flew high into the sky. Erza's beautiful eyes flashed with confusion. Where are you taking me? Mo Bai said quite speechlessly. Work every day, my dear queen. You have become a workaholic. You should relax occasionally. Seeing her hesitation, Mo Bai added, since we are now more than friends but not lovers, I would like to accompany you to go shopping in Magnolia today. Isn't it too much? Hearing this, Erza also smiled bitterly and shook her head. You usually look quite shy. I didn't expect you to have such thoughts. Due to the hurried departure just now, Mo Bai still had some white cream on his mouth. Erza gently reached out her hand and wiped it for him. On this day, the two of them did not go to the guild again. Instead, he visited almost all the bustling streets in Magnolia. It wasn't until sunset that I listened to the bells of Kalushia Cathedral, sat on a hill in the suburbs, and quietly waited for the sunset in the distance. The gorgeous sunset rose, complementing the incomplete sunlight, dyeing the sky pink. Erza gently nestled her head on Mo Bai's shoulder. Thank you, Mo Bai. I haven't felt this relaxed for a long time. Didn't I tell you last night? Occasionally, you have to let go of your burden. The sunlight fell and shone on Erza's beautiful cheeks, causing a blush to appear. At this moment, she just wants to enjoy this short sunset with the one she loves. At the same time, inside the Fairy Tale Guild, Natsu was lying on the table with a slumped face, and he complained one after another to Wendy, Lucy Gray, and the three people with the same expression beside him. What are Erza and Mo Bai doing? Didn't they agree to go to work together today? Chapter 63. No? Mo Bai. Why can you enter the women's bath? Fairy Tale Guild in the lobby. Kana, who has always been a heavy drinker, suddenly went out of his way today. He quietly sneaked up to the old smoker Wakaba and asked in a low voice like a thief. Wakaba, do you feel that? Erza and Mo Bai seem to be a little different recently. Wakaba heard this but didn't take it seriously at all. He blew out a big puff of smoke and said nonchalantly, Erza and Mo Bai? What's the difference? Why didn't I notice? Kana looked around hurriedly and breathed a sigh of relief when she saw that no one noticed their conversation. Then he kicked the chair Wakaba was sitting on with a vicious kick. Crack! Wakaba fell on the ground and suddenly looked anxious. No. What on earth are you trying to say? It's inexplicable. What can they do? I can't explain it to you. Even the dog owned by the owner of the magic item shop opposite the guild can see their current relationship, right? Then you should tell me. Ask the dog. Kana left angrily. Wakaba was left squatting on the spot alone in confusion. I think Kana must have drank too much again today. But although the current relationship between Mo Bai and Erza is more than friends, but not lovers, they have made an agreement to live as before. But after all, that kind of thing has happened, and it still has some impact on normal life. The relationship is quite subtle. In the past, whenever guild members saw Erza in the hall, they would feel a little nervous, fearing that the disciplinary committee member would find fault. But this time, although Erza can often be seen in the hall, she obviously has less control over everyone. It had to make everyone suspicious. After observation, there is another obvious change in Erza. She seems to often appear on the same screen with Mo Bai recently. To use another analogy, girls in girls' apartments often notice. Every time Team Natsu returns from completing a mission, Mo Bai seems to send Erza downstairs, and the two of them seem to stay for a while before parting. That's all. It is understandable that everyone in the guild is aware of it. However, what really made them unable to hold back was that time in the guild bath. Soon after the Fairy Tale Guild was rebuilt, it invested a large area in the backyard to build men's and women's baths. Busy magicians often come here to enjoy a moment of warmth and comfort after finishing their missions. Women's bathing area. On a rare day, the guild's bulletin board was almost cleared, and all the beautiful magicians from Fairy Tale gathered in the bathhouse. But it was discovered that the original heating magic item suddenly broke. The water is all cold. Just when they were about to leave disappointed, they were stopped by Erza. If the water is not warm enough, I have a way. The girl's eyes shone one by one. Really? Erza nodded slightly, then shouted directly towards the outer door. Mo Bai? Are you downstairs? The water in the women's bath has gone cold. Come up and help heat it up. Huh? The girls blushed immediately and subconsciously picked up the bath towel next to them and wrapped their bodies tightly. After all, they had already taken off their original clothes before entering the bath. Looking at Erza, who was still standing there, Lucy couldn't help but ask, Erza, are you sure you don't need to cover it up? Has your relationship reached this level? Is this part of your play? I just asked Mo Bai to come into the women's bath to help. So generous. I can only say that it is Erza. Hearing this, Erza seemed to realize something and simply activated the dress-up magic to cover her private parts. As for Mo Bai, originally, I was still taking a bath with Mikao Wakaba in the men's bath on the first floor, listening to them bragging. But after hearing Erza's voice, Mo Bai stood up immediately, picked up the shorts next to him, and hurried upstairs. By the way, wouldn't it be good to just go in like this? You won't see some pictures that you shouldn't see, right? Half a minute later, Mo Bai was already standing in front of the women's bath door. Due to the failure of the heating magic props, the overall temperature here is much lower than that of the men's bath. As Mo Bai continued to walk inside, Erza was sitting on the edge of the bath, with girls standing on both sides waiting to take a bath. The side light of the eyes swept over. Almost all the beautiful magicians from the guild gathered here. Although there is a bath towel to cover it, a large area of snow-white skin is still exposed. Perhaps because of his rash intrusion, the girls' faces were somewhat flushed and their expressions were unnatural. Ahem, sorry, I'll leave in a moment. Mo Bai stepped forward bravely and activated the dragon-slaying power in his body. The flames jumped continuously from the fingertips, gradually turning into countless bright red energy beams pouring into the pool. The huge calm bathing pool suddenly showed ripples. Erza gently put her hand deep into the pool and then waved to Mo Bai. That's okay, Mo Bai. The water temperature is just right now. No problem. Mo Bai did not stop there, but transferred the flame in his palm to the heating magic item that had not expired. This temperature should be maintained for quite some time. Okay. Then I'll retire after my success. Mo Bai smiled and said half-jokingly. Before leaving, the girls all showed joy and thanked him one after another. Thank you. Mo Bai. It should. Wait until you return to the men's bath on the first floor. Only then did Mo Bai realize that these people seemed to be looking at him strangely. Are there magic words on my face? Wakaba came forward with a fierce look on his face and asked dissatisfiedly. I didn't even notice when you left. If Mikao hadn't reminded me, I wouldn't have noticed that you just went upstairs to the women's bath. The heating magic tool over there for the girls is broken. I'm just helping to repair it. Wakaba's face was full of disbelief. Just because of this? You can go in directly? Yes. Mo Bai replied nonchalantly. Macau and Wakaba looked at each other, feeling that their world view had collapsed. Since the women's bath was repaired, it has become an elusive holy place for them. Almost every time I pass by, I have to imagine what kind of sexy scene there will be. But Mo Bai went in openly and honestly for a reason that sounded extremely stupid. How could they not break the defense? For a long time, the two men with gloomy faces were gearing up and approaching Mo Bai with malicious intent step by step. Mo Bai, I advise you to speak clearly. Otherwise, you may not be able to get out of this bathroom today. And right now, a naked figure dressed strangely suddenly walked into the bathhouse. As for why the dressing up is weird, the upper and lower body were naked, except for a white scarf wrapped around her neck. Obviously Natsu. As soon as Natsu entered the door, he shouted to the front at the top of his lungs. Is Mo Bai here? Granny Poryusuka came to the guild and said she wanted to see you for something. When the sound reached Mo Bai's ears, he was startled. Grandma Poryusuka? This name is naturally familiar to him. Makarov's old friend, an eccentric old lady with superb medical skills and extremely good at healing magic. Although she says she hates humans and everyone, whenever a member of Fairy Tail is injured, as long as it's not a fatal blow, she can save it for you. When Erza was a child, one of her eyes was destroyed in the Tower of Paradise. It was with the help of Granny Poryusuka that she was able to regain her sight by wearing a prosthetic eye. Mo Bai had always wanted to visit her, but had no chance. Now she came directly to the guild, and she asked to see her by name? It doesn't seem to be in line with Granny Poryusuka's character. Mo Bai quickly dried himself, put on his clothes again, got up and left. Macau and Wakaba were still shouting dissatisfiedly behind them. Hey, don't leave. Please speak clearly. Chapter 64, The Weird Haze Forest. Came to the hall in a hurry. Mo Bai saw the figure of the old woman in front of the bulletin board at a glance. The old woman wears a red robe decorated with dragon teeth and has a golden hairpin on her head. She is dressed very simply, despite his age, but from the outline of her facial features, it can be vaguely inferred that she must have been a beauty no less beautiful than Erza Malaj when she was young. Mother-in-law. Hearing Mo Bai's shout, Polyusica turned around slowly, her eyes still cold. You are Mo Bai, right? I've heard about you and the 6 demon generals. There was quite a commotion. Excellent. Mo Bai responded politely on the surface. But in my heart, I felt the magical aura of Granny Poryusuka over and over again. Although it was the first time we met, for some reason, I seemed to smell something unusual from her. This smell seems to come from some ancient and mysterious magic. It's not like the reclusive old man Polyusica would carry. 10 or even 9 is not right. There was a slight fluctuation in Mo Bai's eyes, and he couldn't help but feel a little more vigilant. Mother-in-law Polyusica naturally didn't know Mo Bai's inner thoughts and continued. Makarov came to me before and sent a big purple snake. He said this was a cursed human girl and asked me to find a way to help lift the curse. I've been researching for a long time, but the antidote I concocted still lacks a key ingredient. The situation is quite special. Otherwise, I would not have rushed here in such a hurry. Mo Bai knew that the purple snake she was talking about should be Caberios, a partner of Cobra, one of the former members of the 6 demon generals. Mother-in-law, do you want me to find that medicinal material? Mo Bai asked. Poryusuka nodded. That's right. That medicinal material is called snake flower, and it grows in hazy forests, especially places like cliff edges. Its stems and leaves are shaped like winding snakes, which is easy to distinguish. Logically speaking, when he formed the witch's sin previously, Mo Bai had already promised Cobra that he could go and destroy the Dark Guild with peace of mind, and Caberios would take care of it himself. The treatment of Caberios is also within his scope of responsibility. But the strange magical aura on Poryusuka's body in front of him made people suspicious. Seeing Mo Bai's hesitation, Polyusica immediately added, by the way, since I entrust you to work, the reward will naturally not be less. Recently, I have prepared a new medicine that is only suitable for dragon slayers to enhance their magic power. If you can bring back the snake flower, all those medicines will be yours. An imperceptible light flashed in Mo Bai's eyes. The other party finally revealed his secret. According to Granny Porliusika's character, she didn't like to interact with others. So how could she offer attractive remuneration to work for her? But then I thought about it. The fake Porliusika in front of her has already learned about Kabirios, and it is very likely that the real Porliusika has been controlled. At this time, we cannot alert the enemy. After a brief pause for a few seconds, Mo Bai immediately looked overjoyed and agreed. Thank you, mother-in-law. I'm going to the Haze Forest now. Storm Dragon Wings. With his wings blooming, Mo Bai immediately rushed out of the guild gate and flew high into the sky. After a while, Haze Forest. This place is quite similar to the Gas Tree Sea, where the 6 demon generals fought previously. Due to the special type of trees, the leaves are dark green and grayish-black. It has grown densely for decades, with so many branches and leaves that it is almost difficult for sunlight to pass through. Even on a clear day, when walking around, your vision is quite dim. Finding a slightly open entrance, Mo Bai gradually restrained the power of the storm in his body and stepped slowly into the forest. After all, Mo Bai was suspicious of Granny Polyusica just now. So Mo Bai did not relax his vigilance and kept an eye on the surrounding disturbances. Refining snake flower. Refining snake flower. Mo Bai murmured in his mouth and kept scanning his eyes. But I never found a plant that matched the characteristics. The cool breeze brought bursts of chill, blowing through the dense bushes in front, making a rustling sound, which was creepy in this dark environment. Mo Bai immediately turned his attention to the bushes. It seems that I can feel some magic fluctuations inside. Step by step closer. Call! It was originally just a slightly swaying shrub leaf, but a giant gray hand suddenly shot out from the center. The palm was almost as high as Mo Bai. There is a pale arm connected to the palm, which is raised high at the moment. It seems as if Mo Bai will be patted into a meat pie in the next second. What the hell is this? Although Mo Bai had expected that this trip would not be too smooth. But the moment he saw this monster, he couldn't help but be shocked. Jaws of the Brontosaurus. He was about to hit him with his palm. Mo Bai's figure instantly transformed into a bolt of thunder and lightning, and his fists gathered magic power to strike down the monster's wrist first. The wrist was cut open with blood by the lightning, and a strange whine suddenly sounded from the bush. Mo Bai still didn't dare to relax. After all, only one of the monster's arms could be seen poking out from the bushes. I haven't seen what his body looks like yet. Mo Bai frowned slightly. The thunder and arc wrapped around his body had not dissipated, and he was always ready to attack again. Ouch! Another angry cry echoed through the forest. Senbai's giant arms suddenly retreated into the bushes, and a few seconds later, a fat, big insect emerged from it again. It was the first time I saw such a big bug, with a brown shell, pointed mouthparts, countless tentacles and eyes, and a thick and long tail trailing behind it. After looking carefully, I discovered that the end of the tail was connected to a huge human hand. It turns out that the arm of the monster that was just attacked was the tail of this big insect. The moment he looked at it, Mo Bai had goosebumps all over his body. It's so disgusting. Why are there so many things in this forest? Fire dragon. Oh no, Jaws of the Thunder Dragon. Mo Bai seemed to have thought of something, and the flames that were ready to go out were suppressed back, and he regained control of the violent thunder power. A heavy punch landed on the big insect's head. A crackling sound reached his ears, and Mo Bai immediately retreated, fearing that the thing would explode. But before the insect could react, similar sounds to the one before came from the trees and grass in all directions. Isn't it? Are you coming again? Mo Bai looked around and saw 7 or 8 more fat bugs appearing, each one looking more disgusting than the last. The organs on the tail are also different. Some are attached to hands, some are attached to feet, and one is directly attached to a human face. The giant insect shook its sharp mouth parts, and the transparent wings on its back flapped vigorously, ready to pounce and bite at any time. Watching Mo Bai-san is worth going crazy. My stomach was churning, and I almost vomited out all the food I had eaten the night before. Another punch came out, and Mo Bai has never fought such a difficult battle. Although this insect is not very powerful, it is really disgusting. The number is still increasing. After killing one, two more appeared, each one madly posting to themselves as if they were not afraid of death. And Mo Bai couldn't control it after all. His eyes flickered with fire, and the wind around him became even hotter. I can't stand it anymore. The roar of the fire dragon. In the past, Mo Bai's fire awareness was still very high. But after all, special circumstances require special handling. As the fire attribute magic power continues to accumulate, raging flames spurted out from Mo Bai's mouth, rolling up a huge whirlpool of flames and engulfing the insects that had already formed a siege. Ouch! Amid the wails that were mercilessly burned by the flames, the insect swarm danced. But what confused Mo Bai was that their bodies did not show any signs of being burnt, nor did they show any signs of explosion. After being severely injured, his body gradually became unreal. In the end, it turned into broken magic and dissipated into the air. Not a trace of the body was left. It was as if it had never been there from the beginning. Iron Dragon's sword, seeing that the threat was temporarily lifted, Mo Bai turned his right arm into a sword and swung it out, cutting down all the trees stained with flames in the central open space. To prevent the fire from burning down the entire forest out of control, Mo Bai took a deep breath. A cold light flashed in his eyes. It's really strange. These bugs don't look like the wild beasts and monsters that this world should have. But they look like they were created artificially, and their goals are very clear, and they all come for me. It seems that fake mother-in-law wants to kill me. Chapter 65 Crisis Everywhere. Lost Magic, Magnolia, Fairy Tale Guild. Makarov sat on the counter in the lobby, as usual. Seeing Mikao, Wakaba, and Natsu walking out of the bathing area, they asked casually, "Wasn't a Mo Bai with you just now? Does anyone take a shower for a while?" Natsu replied, "No, Granny Porliusica came to the guild just now and asked her for help. She should have left, right?" Makarov looked stunned. Having been with Porliusica for so many years, he naturally knows her character very well. This stubborn and aloof old lady would never take the initiative to seek help from others no matter how bad the situation she encountered, not to mention taking the initiative to come to the guild. Makarov gradually recalled the last time he saw Porliusica. After the battle between the 6 demon generals, Gray brought back a comatose purple snake. Makarov could tell at a glance that the snake was a human girl who had been cursed with a transformation. Unable to lift the curse, Makarov found Porliusica and asked her for help in diagnosis and treatment. So many days have passed. According to Polyusica's ability, the curse should have been broken. Why on earth did she come to the guild without saying a word? And why did she come to the guild to find Mo Bai? The more Makarov thought about it, the more something was wrong. No, I have to go see her right away. In the hazy forest, despite the unfavorable start, Mo Bai still walked deeper into the jungle. He wanted to find out what the purpose of Granny Polyusica, who was probably disguised by someone else, was to set a trap here to kill him. In terms of current strength, unless there is a strong man of the level of the other 2 giants of the Dark Guild and Balam Alliance, or the top 4 terrifying magicians in the Holy 10. In a battle with others besides them, Mo Bai is still confident that he will be invincible, even if there is a real life or death emergency. Most of the magic power in his body still remains, under the linkage of wind and thunder. As long as you want to run away, no one can stop you. However, this journey was not smooth either. A strange insect or monster would suddenly appear from nowhere. Mo Bai is always surprised. It's really endless. Near the edge of the cliff, Mo Bai has lost count of how many bugs he has killed. He tore off a piece of bark and put it into his mouth to chew. Mo Bai was about to take a rest when he suddenly felt an unprecedented wave of magic coming from behind him. What kind of magic is this? I've never seen such a weird smell before. Mo Bai suddenly became alert. Thunder appears all over the body, ready to enter the battle at any time. I admire your courage for being able to come this far, but the road has reached the end. The only thing that will greet you next is death. The other party's conceited and arrogant voice reached Mo Bai's ears. He seems to have been aware of being discovered by Mo Bai. Simply don't hide it anymore. A figure emerged from the forest. This person was wearing a blue and black coat, with silver-gray hair raised high, and a pair of black-rimmed glasses on his ears. He was quite handsome, but when he spoke, his contemptuous tone was particularly disgusting. Fairy tale, Mo Bai. I have to say that the Dragon Slayer's perception is very keen, but this can't save your life. As early as the first time he saw the other person, Mo Bai had already recognized his identity. He is Rastelos of the Demon Heart Guild. Like the 6 demon generals, Devil's Heart is also one of the 3 giants of the Dark Guilds of Balam Alliance. But the strength of each member of Devil's Heart cannot be underestimated. It can be said that they are a level stronger than the 6 demon generals as a whole. Among them, many members also master some long-lost dark magic, which is particularly difficult to deal with. Mo Bai's eyes were as bright as a torch, staring closely at Rastelos. If I remember correctly, this guy should be using the Arc of Lost Magic Manifestation. He can rely on magic power to turn anything he imagines into reality. It seems that the insect that disappeared after being injured along the way was created by him to deal with me. Thinking of this, Mo Bai's heart skipped a beat, and he decisively gathered the power to destroy the dragon and shot forward. Jaws of the Brontosaurus. Rastelos still had the expression of being in control, standing there and letting Mo Bai attack. The Thunder Fist fell quickly, and Lastiro's body suddenly turned into a shadow and disappeared. Is it just a body of thoughts? Put away your fist. Rastelos' hollow voice came from the forest again, seemingly far and yet close. If you want to know more about your death, you are welcome to come to me on the cliff ahead. Of course, if you don't have the courage, you will be trapped here to death. Mo Bai was naturally not offended by his sharp words. Instead, he continued to peel off pieces of bark from the tree to quickly replenish energy. Kiankian didn't stop until the tree in front of him was almost bald. While chewing heavily, Mo Bai recalled the scene in the guild and couldn't help but fall into deep thought. From the very beginning, when the fake Granny Polyusica came to the guild alone, it was a complete trap, and it was specifically targeted at me. Rastelos. Why do the people with the Devil's Heart appear here? But the smell of the fake Granny Polyusica seems to be different from the missing body created by Lastiros. Could it be that the Devil's Heart sent someone else? Putting these mysteries together, Mo Bai really didn't think clearly for a while. In my impression, the first large-scale operation of Devil's Heart was during the Fairy Tale Guild's S-Class Wizard Assessment. But there are still several months left before the assessment, which is far away. Could it be that they have to act in advance? If the Devil's Heart really has a plan, it will probably be detrimental to the guild. But what exactly are they going to do? It seems that we have to find the true form of Rastelos and beat him until he tells the truth. Chapter 66, The First Battle with the Devil's Heart. The 6 demon generals have been destroyed and transformed into witches. Previously, Mo Bai and Mirajane destroyed the Evil Spirit Temple, a guild affiliated with Gate of Hades. Now someone with a Devil's Heart is targeting him again. Mo Bai couldn't help but smack his lips. I have only been in this world for less than a few months, and I have made a lot of enemies. Just the 3 dark guilds of Balam Alliance have already become involved with me. Keep moving forward along the path in the forest. Mo Bai also gradually felt that the magical atmosphere full of hostility to him was getting closer and closer. It seems that more than one person has come. Speaking of Devil's Heart, Mo Bai doesn't like most of the members, but only 2 of them can make him pay special attention. There are 7 powerful magicians under Demon Heart, called the 7 Families of Purgatory. One of the people Mo Bai is interested in is Urusha, the leader of the 7 Families of Purgatory. Since birth, Urudia has been mistakenly sent to the Magic Development Bureau by her mother Urudia because her magic power was too strong and she had a high fever. As a result, the then director Brian used it for in vivo experiments. Although Urudia escaped by chance, he misunderstood his mother Uru and eventually went astray and became a member of the Dark Guild. It was for this reason that Mo Bai used thunderous means to kill Brian. If there is a chance, Mo Bai would like to chat with her. Even Mo Bai has made a plan in his mind to save Ulu. The other person is Hades, the president of the Devil's Heart. In other words, his real name is not Hades, but Precedo. He was one of the founders of Fairy Tail and the second president of the guild. However, due to his obsession with magic, he fell into the abyss of dark magic and was unable to extricate himself, and eventually founded the Dark Guild Demon's Heart. As long as you don't meet President Precedo, it's more than enough to deal with the others. But the most important thing is to find out what the purpose of their appearance is. With the deepening of the haze forest, the cliff at the end is right in front of you. Mo Bai gently pushed aside the last clump of vegetation blocking his view. Not far away, 3 powerful magical auras suddenly erupted, and the pressure generated cut off the fragile grass stems under their feet. Among the 7 descendants of Purgatory, 3 of them came at once. They are enough to look up to me. A touch of solemnity appeared on Mo Bai's face, and he raised his eyes to look at the 3 people standing in front of the cliff. The person on the far left is Rastelos, who he met just now. Compared with just now, Rastelos' aura was a bit stronger at this time. It seems that this time it is me. The person on the right has messy blonde hair, which seems to have not been taken care of for a long time and looks very sloppy. Mo Bai is also no stranger to him. Zankro, the god-destroying mage of fire, is also a difficult guy. As for the old woman in the middle of Zankro and Lastiros, Mo Bai just met her in the guild not long ago. The fake Granny Poryusica. So far she has not revealed her true identity. When he saw Mo Bai walking forward slowly with no fear on his face, Zankro could not help but show a hint of arrogance on his bloodthirsty face. I really don't know how to live or die. I just have a few more dragon-slaying crystals in my body, so I feel like I'm not afraid of anything. I will let you know when we fight each other later that the dragon-slaying magic you are so proud of is nothing but scum in front of me. Facing Zankro's ridicule, Mo Bai didn't want to talk nonsense with him. Both are slaying magic. Dragon Slayer and God Slayer can both consume the same elemental magic, but this does not mean that God Slayer magic is superior to others. In terms of rarity, those who master dragon-slaying magic are more or less related to dragons, and god-slaying magic can be learned by oneself from some relevant classics. If there was a real fight, the real competition would be the level of magic power, and god-destroying magic would not have much of an advantage. Lastiros on the side pushed up his glasses and spoke in an equally irritating tone. There is no need to kill a chicken with a big knife. He has been harassed all the way by the monster I created. It is estimated that he doesn't have much magic power left now. We don't even need to do it ourselves. As soon as he finished speaking, Lastiros clapped his hands, and suddenly the ground cracked and the mountains shook, making a huge sound that shook the mountains and forests. Roar! A ferocious crack was torn open on the cliff, and then the roar of wild beasts came from inside. Sensing the danger coming from below, Mo Bai immediately jumped to the top of a tall tree behind him to observe. The cracks keep growing. Under Rastalos's constant summons, a dragon-shaped monster covered in steel armor actually flew out of the crack with wings that covered the sky. Since you are a Dragon Slayer mage, you might as well try facing my dragon-shaped guardian beast. Balukishes of hate. Let's see if you can slay the dragon, or will you be slain by the dragon? This dragon-shaped monster is the largest monster Mo Bai has ever seen. The size is even larger than the house I live in. Facing the dragon-shaped monster's fierce roar and strong sense of oppression, Mo Bai narrowed his eyes slightly. Is this another monster created by using the arc of embodiment? Roar! The dragon-shaped monster flapped its wings and swooped down from midair. Head straight for Mo Bai. The roots of the wooden dragon are entangled. Ate the bark along the way. The large amount of wood energy in Mo Bai's body was released together before it could be converted into magic power everywhere in the body. Just under the crack where the dragon-shaped monster emerged from the ground, 2 thick green vines suddenly rose up and intertwined with each other at an extremely terrifying growth rate, standing upright in front of Mo Bai. But compared to the huge dragon-shaped monster, no matter how strong the vines are, they're only like 2 thin bean sprouts. Overestimating your own capabilities, Lastiros sneered. The heavy body of the dragon-shaped monster attacked at high speed, breaking through bamboos without even paying attention to the vines. But when he was about to attack Mo Bai, his body suddenly became unable to move and froze in place. Lastiros was stunned for a moment. What's going on? I saw that the beard of the wooden dragon, which was inconspicuous just now, had wrapped around the limbs of the dragon-shaped monster at some point. Not only that, the slender branches are spreading crazily at a speed visible to the naked eye, until the monster's sharp claws and huge body are all restrained. Lastiros finally came to his senses and waved his arms wildly to control the dragon-shaped monster, trying to break free from the vines. But instead of breaking at all, the vines shrank tighter and tighter. Thanks to the large amount of bark Mo Bai swallowed, the wood dragon's beard's toughness is particularly amazing at this time. No matter how incredible the arc of embodiment is, the strength of the creatures created is also linked to the caster's own magic power. If the caster is a novice, the monsters that manifest will be equally vulnerable. Mo Bai spoke in a deep voice, raised the palm of his right hand and made a fist lightly. The wooden dragon's beard suddenly shrank and tightened, locking the dragon-shaped monster imprisoned in it, and instantly turned into scattered and broken magic stars and dissipated. Rastelos looked pale. The dragon-shaped guardian beast that he was so proud of had destroyed countless villages and towns. Even if they meet some famous magicians, they will be trampled under the feet of dragon beasts without exception. At this moment, Mo Bai was able to resolve it so easily, and the fake Polyusica, who had never spoken, was no longer as relaxed as she was at the beginning. Chapter 67: Instant Kill of Zankro. The Birth of an Actor. Based on the information held by the Devil's Heart, Mo Bai joined the Fairy Tale Guild not long ago. He has 8 dragon-slaying magic crystals with different properties in his body, and his strength is quite impressive. But through recent battles, they seem to have discovered that Mo Bai is not as powerful as rumored. Rumor has it that Mo Bai defeated Jalal and stopped the Tower of Paradise. But in fact, according to the Devil's Heart investigation, Mo Bai did not directly kill Jalal at that time. Jalal went berserk and out of control entirely because of his impulse to absorb the magic elf power. And in the battle with the 6 demon generals, Mo Bai seemed to be afraid of President Wu and deliberately withheld the prayers of other members, so he did not release President Wu. From this information, Devil's Heart deduced Mo Bai only has some special abilities and can see some combat secrets or weaknesses of his opponents, but his magic power is not very strong at all. As for the 8 attributes of the dragon-slaying magic crystal, it is probably just a guise to bluff people. Therefore, when the 3 Lastiros were sent to assassinate Mo Bai at the same time, they felt that it was something out of a molehill. Killing one Mo Bai would mean dispatching 3 of the 7 families of purgatory at the same time. However, judging from the current situation, the situation seems to have undergone some subtle changes. Mo Bai's strength seems to be much stronger than they imagined. Don't use such low-level magic to embarrass yourself. The sound of sneers reached his ears, causing Rastelos to blush on the spot. After all, Mo Bai had the upper hand in the previous confrontation. If he wanted to ridicule himself, forget it. After all, his skills were inferior to others. But the Tana was not Mo Bai, but his teammate, Zankero. Lastiros turned his head stiffly. You! What's wrong with me? Zankero raised his eyebrows, his expression even more disdainful, but purple-black flames quietly floated out from his fingertips. Purple-black is the exclusive color of magic power for all god-destroying magicians. Next, let me tell you how to use magic. The Fist of the Fire God. Under the blessing of purple and black flames, Zankro's fist swung through the air like a burning meteor, hitting Mo Bai's vital points directly with every move. Steel skin. The moment he was about to make contact, Mo Bai quickly strengthened his body defense and put his elbows on his chest. Take Zankro's attack head-on. The fist of his left hand quietly retreated under his body, thunder rolling in his palm. Zankro indulged in his ferocious offensive. The flames on his body became more and more intense, and he easily suppressed Mo Bai. Seeing Mo Bai struggling to resist, the ground slowly cracked under his feet, and Zankero became even more wanton and rampant. What a useless dragon. No matter how many kinds of magic you master, you can't defeat the god-destroying power that is superior to the power of dragons. Zenkero didn't finish his words. The voice gradually became smaller. It wasn't until Mo Bai was suppressed, until he was almost defeated, that he discovered the golden electro-optical ball the size of a sandbag on Mo Bai's left fist. Although small in size, it is filled with extremely refined thunder magic power. It has obviously been saved for a long time. The expression on Mo Bai's face showed a hint of relief. The steel skin receded, and a small amount of the purple-black flames burned into his skin, causing a slight sting. Mo Bai didn't care. At this time, he had already focused all his attention on the next attack. Thunder Dragon's collapsed fist. The left fist wrapped around Golden Thunder, an electric arc suddenly shot out. Zankero's face was suddenly swallowed up in horror, and he hastily mobilized the flames all over his body, frantically bombarding the front. But it was unable to cause any obstruction to the violent offensive of Thunder and Lightning Collapse Fist. Under the golden light, the god-destroying flame was eclipsed. In Zankero's horrified sight, Mo Bai's attack had the potential to break bamboos, and he punched his body with a punch. Bang! Dazzling lightning flashed past. When several people regained their sight again, Zankero's body had already been blown away by the collapsed fist and fell down the cliff. Don't know life or death. When the fake Polyusica and Lastiros who stayed aside saw this, their expressions became increasingly ugly. Zankero, one of the 7 families of purgatory, was he just killed like that? Mo Bai, on the other hand, stared at the fake Polyusica, carefully feeling the magical aura emanating from her body. Confirm again and again. This magical aura doesn't look like a dummy created by Lastiros using the arc of manifestation, but more like a wizard using transformation magic to change his appearance. Transformation magic. She won't be Sister Lei, right? Sister Lei was talking about Erudia. As soon as Erudia was born, her mother Uru couldn't stop crying because of joy, so she named her Erudia. Mo Bai still calls her Sister Lei as a habit. In order to verify whether the other party was Erudia, Mo Bai's brain was running rapidly, and he was planning on it. At that moment, the magical aura that was about to burst out of his body was suppressed, and all was taken back into his body. Storm Dragon wings. White wings gradually appeared on the back. Compared with usual, the luster is much duller, even faintly illusory, and may disappear at any time. Mo Bai's face was pale, as if the blow to Zankero just now had consumed all the magic power in his body. Wings bloom. Mo Bai glanced at the 2 Lastiros not far away with a hint of fear and guilt, then turned around and staggered a few steps, stumbled off the cliff, and took off. Although he moved quickly and flapped his wings vigorously, his flying speed never increased to a high speed. Mo Bai secretly complained, "This is my first time acting. I don't know if I can get through it." On the other side, all Mo Bai's actions were seen by Lastiros and fake Polyusica. Lastiros said awkwardly, "He was running in such a hurry. He seemed to be afraid that we would catch up." Polyusica noticed something was wrong. It was clear that Mo Bai was acting with ease just a second before he unleashed his attack and hit Zankero, but now he was panicking and about to run away. Have to be suspicious. But then I thought about it. Now that Zankero was knocked off the cliff, and he didn't know whether he was alive or dead, what if Mo Bai was allowed to leave? For the Devil's Heart, this battle not only yields no gains but suffers heavy losses. It may even expose the plan. Thinking of this, Polyusica gritted her teeth and said loudly, "Make a pair of wings and come out immediately. We must catch up with him." Rastalos hesitated slightly, but he still ran the magic power across his eyes, and 2 pairs of wings appeared on their backs. "Let's go!" Polyusica shouted from the air, but Lastiros remained where he was, hesitating and saying, How about you go after Mo by yourself? He has no magic power now. You can definitely deal with it alone. I'll go find Zankero." When he said this, Lastiros himself didn't believe it. He and Zankero both have perverse personalities and are usually not very harmonious. What's more, before Zankero took action just now, he severely mocked his manifestation arc as a shameful thing. How could Rastalos be so concerned about Zankero's life and death? He just saw Mo Bai's terrifying explosive power and was worried that if something unexpected happened, he would end up falling off a cliff and die. Only then did I find an excuse. And after working together for so long, how could poor Yusuke not know his true inner thoughts? However, due to the emergency situation, poor Yusuke just glanced at him coldly, then turned around and flew into the air, quickly pursuing Mo Bai. Useless trash. Chapter 68 Urudia. Blood Sacrifice. Through the tentative fight just now, Mo Bai also had a rough estimate of the strength of the 7 families of Purgatory. Even if they don't underestimate the enemy, Zankro and Lastiros can't be their opponents if they attack together. While thinking, Mo Bai suddenly felt the magic power fluctuation coming from behind him and looked back within sight. Poorly Yusuke was manipulating a pair of crystal blue wings created by the Arc of Embodiment to chase towards her crazily. She's the only one chasing her. That would be much easier. Mo Bai controlled the flying speed. Speeding up a little not only delays the time for him to be caught up, but also prevents poorly Yusuke from becoming suspicious. On the other side, they were looking for a landing place. The waterfall in front seems good. It should be far enough away. Even if Rastalos notices it, he won't be able to get through it for a while. After making up your mind, Mo Bai gathered his strength. His wings glowed a little brighter, and he galloped towards the open space above the waterfall. Poorly Yusuke is still in pursuit. In her opinion, Mo Bai was at the end of his rope. Even if he chose to land, at most he would just want to hide in the mountains and forests with complex terrain, so that it would be easier to escape. Accompanied by the sound of rushing water from the waterfall next to him, Mo Bai stood firmly on the grass with his feet. Different from the darkness of the hazy forest, the trees here are slightly sparse, just enough to see the bright sunshine. The scenery is not bad, but now is obviously not the time to appreciate it. About half a minute later, Yusuke also arrived, landing only a dozen steps away from Mo Bai. For a magician, this distance is enough to attack the opponent at any time. Poorly Yusuke said calmly. If I guess correctly, the last magic power in your body has been used up, right? Mo Bai smiled helplessly, neither denying nor confirming. Do we have to kill them all? In poorly Yusuke's view. At this time, Mo Bai seemed to have recognized his inevitable death and seemed to have no intention of resisting anymore. Poorly Yusuke shook her head lightly and activated the magic power in her body. Do you have any last words to say? Mo Bai sighed softly and said slowly. Before you take action, I have one more question. Oh. Poorly Yusuke raised her eyebrows slightly, with some caution in her eyes. Mo Bai had a wry smile on his face, saying that he must let me know the truth when he is about to die. I know you are not Granny Poorly Yusuke. So, can you let me see your true face? Is that all? The doubts in poorly Yusuke's heart disappeared immediately. She chuckled, and a transformation magic circle flashed under her feet. Forget it. I'll let you die and understand. Under Mo Bai's gaze, the light covered poor Yusuke's body and then gradually dissipated. The old mother-in-law turned into a young woman in white plain clothes in the blink of an eye. The woman is tall, has particularly beautiful facial features, and has black silk stockings hanging down like a waterfall. Her temperament is not inferior to that of the beauties from the fairy tale guild. Looking at her beautiful face with a slight smile, Mo Bai felt at ease. As expected, it's you, Sister Lei, same as previous guests. The other party is indeed Urudia. Introduce yourself. The heart of the devil, one of the 7 descendants of Purgatory, Urudia, uses the lost arc of time magic. But, since joining the Devil's Heart, I have countless dead souls under my command. Knowing this seems to be of no use to you. Urudia lazily fiddled with the hair hanging down by his ears, and played with a light green crystal ball in his right hand. The way he looks at Mo Bai is like a hunter looking at his prey that is tightly trapped in a trap. Really? Mo Bai breathed a long sigh of relief. The long-suppressed magic power in his body was finally released, and no longer had to be hidden. Urudia's beautiful eyes suddenly flashed with astonishment. You actually still have so much magic left? Mo Bai spread his hands. If you don't deliberately hold back, how could you follow me obediently? Although he had just used the most consuming thunder magic power, Zankro was too inexperienced and was killed in one blow. Naturally, There is still a lot of magic left in Mo Bai's body. It's just that they keep pretending to numb the other party. Urudia paused for a moment, with a cloud on his face, and said in a low voice, "You don't think you can defeat me even if you attract me here? I'm not like Zankro and Lastiros. I was personally promoted by President Hades, the head of the 7 familiars of Purgatory." The words fell. The terrifying magic power fluctuations were centered on Urudia and shook all around. The birds in the forest were frightened, and they flapped their wings and fled into the sky. Even Mo Bai feels a lot of pressure. Even if we look at the entire younger generation of magicians in the Kingdom of Fiori, Urudia's talent can also be regarded as one of the best. After all, when she was just born, she suffered from high fever due to excessive magic power. In terms of magical power alone, she is not even inferior to Jalal, who was once listed among the Holy 10 in the form of his missing body. Coupled with the assistance of the lost magic arc of time and the magical guidance Hades has given her over the years, Urudia is definitely an opponent that cannot be underestimated. Mo Bai's eyes couldn't help but look a little more solemn, and he quickly analyzed the battle plan in his heart. Sister Lei's magic is the arc of time, which can make the shape of anything go back to the past or push it into the future. If you use wood magic, the vines will wither, iron magic will rust, and other types of magic will be more or less affected and weakened. However, I remember that this kind of time-changing magic cannot work on living organisms other than plants, right? Looking at Urudia, who was still confronting him, Mo Bai simply hesitated. His right hand turned into an iron blade and was aimed at his waist and abdomen. The bright red blood immediately flowed out, dripping down his thighs and even dripping on the grass at his feet. "Grandma is a bisich. She hit a bit hard. It still hurts." Although he felt miserable inside, Mo Bai still pretended to be fine and calmly stated his intentions. "As long as I incorporate my own blood into the magic, your arc of time won't be able to neutralize my attack, right?" Urudia tilted his head, non-committal. "The information is indeed correct. You have the ability to see through your opponent's weaknesses. This must have been the failure of the 6 demon generals before, right? But I also said that I am the leader of the 7 descendants of Purgatory, and I don't just know the arc of time magic. I shape Rosegarn." Urudia's fist seal was closed on one side of his body. The posture was exactly the same as Gray and Leo's, and the ice magic was ready to come out. Mo Bai couldn't help but sigh. As expected of Ulu's daughter, the magic power is so strong. Speaking of which, she can be regarded as Gray's little senior sister. In the blink of an eye, a huge and exquisite purple ice rose bloomed in front of Urudia. It continued to thrive on branches also made of ice, and spread to Mo Bai in an instant. As one of Urudia's most powerful ice modeling magics, it can create a large number of thorns and roses in an instant, both offensively and defensively. Mo Bai is trapped in it at this moment. Urudia said coldly, "Because of a very disgusting woman, I rarely use ice modeling magic. Today I will make an exception to kill you. Then I'm really honored." Despite the teasing, Mo Bai is very aware of the current situation. If you don't take any measures, you can wait for the roses and thorns to greet you, and you will be crushed to death at any time. Chapter 69, The Power of the 4 Dragons. A breakthrough in the secret of dragon slaying. Look around. Speaking of which, is there a waterfall next to it? It's just a good place to borrow the power of water. I just don't know if you can help me break through the power of Dragon Slayer mystery. After mastering magic for several months, Mo Bai has become familiar with the operation of dragon slaying power. Just as he realized in the consciousness space before, as long as the elemental magic power corresponding to the crystal appears around him, the secret of dragon slaying can be broken through at any time. Now, under the cliff behind is the rapid river. It just provides the 4th source of magic power, the water element. The opportunity has arisen. In the dark space of Ming Zhao and Hui Dark, the 3 dragon-slaying crystals of fire, electricity, and wind were still shining brightly. And under the constant stimulation of Mo Bai's consciousness, in an inconspicuous corner, a piece of blue fusiform crystal finally came to life. exuding a magical atmosphere. The mind returns to reality. The magic circle suddenly appeared under Mo Bai's feet, and 4 magic beams of different colors surged out, crisscrossing from his feet until they wrapped around his whole body. The blood flowing out of the wound on his waist also began to flow back and condense, immediately dyeing the magic power surrounding him blood red. The dragon-killing power suddenly activated. The waterfall behind him surged wildly, creating huge waves in an instant. And within the wave, you can even vaguely see the shadow of a giant blue dragon, roaring in waves. Mo Bai's eyes were bright, and he slowly stretched out his arms, gradually bringing the huge power of the surging wave back into his control. The secret of dragon slaying. Dragon swims in the wilderness. Magic bursts. The blood-colored dragon-slaying power carried a devastating force, and together with the frenzy behind it, it swelled and bombarded the blossoming ice roses in front of Erudia. Hold it! Erudia clenches her silver teeth, and the magic power of modeling is constantly infused into her body, strengthening the thorn rose. But the dragon's roar that kept disturbing his ears made him unable to concentrate. And under the double erosion of the wave and the dragon-slaying power, in just a few seconds, a small crack suddenly appeared on the originally delicate rose. Erudia's face suddenly turned pale. Under her horrified gaze, the cracks were instantly magnified and spread all over the rose and thorn branches, like fine spider webs. Suddenly shattered. How is it possible? At this moment, Erudia no longer had any defense in front of him, and he watched helplessly as the illusory dragon pounced on him. Broken. When Mo Bai saw this, he hurriedly suppressed the originally majestic magic power and took the initiative to reduce its power. If I accidentally kill Sister Lei, I'm afraid I'll have to slap myself twice when I wake up in the middle of the night. Fortunately, at the moment when the terrifying power of the dragon-slaying secret was about to explode, Mo Bai stepped back from the brink in time to minimize the damage caused. But even so, Erudia still suffered serious injuries in the bombardment just now, and now it is difficult to even stand up. The originally neat clothes became torn, revealing some tender skin. Mo Bai breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, I stopped the car. But although this dragon-slaying secret is powerful, it consumes too much. I'm afraid I don't have much magic power left now. Gently putting away the magical aura on his body, Mo Bai walked slowly to the side of Erudia, who fell to the ground, leaned over and asked, "Let's talk." Erudia held on to the ground with one hand and tried to stand up, but was unable to do so. He could only glare at Mo Bai and respond coldly. "You win. If you want to kill me, just kill me. I have nothing to talk about with you. I want to know something about what you went through before joining the Devil's Heart Guild." Mo Bai said, "It's none of your business. If you want to kill, just kill." After Erudia finished speaking, he stubbornly turned his head to one side and ignored Mo Bai's words. Mo Bai touched his nose in disgrace. Speaking of which, Erudia at this time still believed in Zerif, the ancestor of the Black Mage, and had a grudge against her mother Uru. It seemed that no matter what he said, she couldn't listen. This can't be blamed on Erudia. When she was a child, she had a high fever due to excessive magic power. Her mother, Ulu, sent her to the Magic Development Bureau for treatment, but she unexpectedly met Brian. While Brian was conducting various inhuman experiments on Erudia, he also lied to Erudia that her daughter was dead. Then, the frustrated URU accepted Leo and Gray as disciples to ease the pain of losing his daughter. As for Erudia, he escaped from the Magic Development Bureau by chance and ran back home desperately. However, he discovered that his mother, URU, seemed to be getting along very well with Gray Leo's 2 apprentices, and mistakenly believed that he had been abandoned by his mother. Since then, Erudia voluntarily returned to the Magic Development Bureau out of resentment. After many twists and turns, he entered the heart of the devil and learned the lost arc of time magic from President Hades. Anyway, we have to find a way to eliminate her misunderstanding about her mother first, right? Mo Bai scratched his head and looked around subconsciously. Even though he had just activated Dragon Slayer Mystery to borrow the power of the water, The flow of the waterfall behind him had not diminished at all and was still rapid. Wait a minute. I thought I heard Macau say it when we were chatting before. There is the largest river in the Haze Forest that leads directly to the ocean. Isn't it right here at the waterfall? No matter what, let's treat a dead horse as a living horse doctor. Thinking of this, Mo Bai returned to Erudia. His eyes were slightly apologetic, and he said softly, I'm offended. What are you going to do? An ominous premonition suddenly arose in Erudia's heart, and she asked alertly. But Mo Bai couldn't help but lowered his body, stretched out his arms, and directly picked up Erudia's voluptuous thighs and carried her entire body on his shoulders. Let me go. What are you going to do? Erudia was startled by this sudden, frivolous behavior. When she reacted, she was already lying on Mo Bai's shoulder. You madman, what on earth do you want to do? Erudia struggled desperately to resist, beating Mo Bai on the back. Mo Bai was beaten so hard that it hurt. Relax, Sister Lei, I won't eat you, Mo Bai said helplessly, walking towards the waterfall in front of him step by step. Sister Lei. Hearing this incomprehensible name, Erudia was a little dazed for a moment, but it only lasts a few seconds. The moment I was stunned was forced to end, because she had been thrown directly from the top of the waterfall by Mo Bai. Chapter 70 Dusty Memories. How to save you are you? Now, Erudia only felt that his body was sinking uncontrollably. Mo Bai's figure above his sight became smaller and smaller, and the sound of rushing water in his ears became more and more noisy. Sure enough, he still wants to kill me. Erudia closed her eyes in despair, waiting for death to come. But his body did not fall into the water like this. Instead, he felt a pair of warm arms hugging him again, and his falling speed was immediately relieved. Erudia opened his eyes and looked confused. What caught his eye was Mo Bai's smiling face. Mo Bai said cheerfully, Hey, I'm just kidding you. Seeing that Mo Bai's attitude kept erratic, Erudia suddenly raised his eyebrows and asked angrily, What do you want to do? Galila. It's a pity that the words are not finished yet. She and Mo Bai sank into the water together. Mo Bai thought to himself, It all depends on luck. If this river really leads to the sea, maybe it can help Sister Lei retrieve the memory of her mother Ulu. Underwater, Erudia tried his best and finally broke free from Mo Bai's arm. But just as she was preparing to swim upstream, a figure that had been away from her for many years gradually appeared in her mind. Damn it, why do you think of her now? Erudia hit the top of his head hard, but not only did the blurry figure not disappear, but it gradually became clearer, turning his head and smiling at himself. It seemed like it was so close. Erudia, I don't know if it was an illusion, but Erudia clearly heard the other party calling his name and reaching out to him. Go away. I don't want to see you. Seeing Erudia's disgusted resistance, the shadow showed disappointment, turned its head, and dissipated into a beam of light. I don't know why. Even though he rejected the other party with his own hands, Erudia felt twisted in his heart. It's strange why I suddenly thought of these things. I have to get out of here quickly. Just when Erudia was about to leave the water again, another picture flashed before his eyes, which was clearer than before. In the screen, a young woman with short black hair was holding a baby in her arms, almost kneeling at the door, and kept saying in a pleading tone, Please save my daughter Erudia. She was born with too much magic power and has a high fever. If she continues like this, she will die. Please save her. Erudia was startled. The woman in the picture is none other than her mother Ulu, who has been dead for 10 years. Is this a story from my childhood? It turns out that she sent me to the Magic Development Bureau because of my high fever. I still feel that I was abandoned by her on purpose. Erudia looked bitter. The scene changes. The same lens, the same location. Standing in front of Ulu is still the group of Mast people from the Magic Development Bureau. We have said many times that your daughter was dead when she was brought here, and now even her body has been disposed of. Get out of here quickly. No, no way. Didn't you promise me that you could cure Erudia? But she is indeed dead. There is no point in making trouble. The people from the Magic Development Bureau mercilessly sentenced Ulu to her daughter's death, and then drove her away. Erudia's heart felt like being stabbed by a sharp knife. bleeding continuously. I was obviously still alive at that time. Mom, she was deceived by those people. The images keep alternating. Erudia saw scenes from her mother's lifetime. Life must go on. Later, you successively accepted two disciples, Leo and Gray, and devoted almost all of his love for his daughter to these two disciples. But even so, whenever he saw Erudia's childhood clothes, Ura couldn't help but hide in the corner and whimper. As the picture freezes in the final scene, the dark night sky was illuminated by fire, and you faced the demon Deliora alone. In order to completely dispel the shadow in Gray's heart, in the end, he chose to use absolute ice to seal Deliora forever at the cost of his life. No! Erudia came back to his senses and frantically stretched out his arms to grab forward, trying to save Uru, who had melted into ice. The picture stopped abruptly and disappeared suddenly. The side of the river was still under the water's surface, which stung my eyes. The desperate Erudia closed his eyes in pain and completely relaxed his body. How about just die in this memory? Then, we can see my mother again in heaven. Just when Erudia's consciousness became blurred, a force suddenly came from behind, hugged his waist, and began to slowly float up. Call! Holding Erudia in his arms, he emerged from the water again. Mo Bai breathed a long sigh of relief, grabbed the edge of the grass on one side with his right hand, and pulled Erudia ashore together. After narrowly escaping from suicide, Erudia looked in a daze and asked blankly, "Why do you still need to save me?" Mo Bai rolled his eyes, took off his shirt, and wrung out the water drops, then sighed and said, "I know you have been greatly wronged. But don't blame yourself. It's not your fault. Besides, if your mother was still alive, she certainly wouldn't want to see you giving up on yourself." Seeing that Erudia didn't respond, Mo Bai coughed twice tactically and added, "By the way, I didn't mean anything by throwing you into the water just now. I just helped you see those pictures. You is a great magician. Deliora's seal has been broken, and the melted ice has flowed into the sea. As her flesh and blood, I think you should be able to see those important memories of her life." Wow. Mo Bai hasn't finished speaking yet. Next to him, Erudia squatted on the ground and immediately buried his head in his knees like a child and cried loudly. Mo Bai was startled at first and originally wanted to coax him, but seeing Erudia's uncomfortable expression with nowhere to vent, he still couldn't speak. The cry spread throughout the forest. Mo Bai waited quietly for a long time, looking at Erudia, who was already crying and his mood had eased slightly. Mo Bai sighed and asked immediately, "Okay, now that you're done venting your emotions, can you talk to me?" Erudia's eyes were red and he looked at Mo Bai sadly. "What do you want to talk about?" "Let's talk about how to let you see you again." Looking at Mo Bai's determined and sincere eyes, Erudia's lips trembled slightly, and a hint of hope flashed in his eyes again. Chapter 71, Eclipse Gate. Mo Bai's promise. Actually, even though I keep saying I hate my mother, the person I want to see the most is her. Otherwise, I wouldn't learn the arc of time magic. But over the years, no matter how powerful the magic power I have mastered, I have discovered that the arc of time cannot resurrect the dead. President Hades told me that as long as I follow him to create the era of great magic, there may be a glimmer of life. So I have stayed in the heart of the devil all these years. After briefly recounting his experience, Erudia immediately asked Mo Bai impatiently, "So, do you really have a way to help me save my mother?" Mo Bai said seriously, "I don't dare to say it's 100%, but I can at least give it a try." Erudia's eyes couldn't help but be a little more suspicious. "I must warn you first. If you study the magic of resurrecting the dead, you will be cursed by God like Zerif." Mo Bai nodded. "Of course I know this. But since we can't resurrect the dead, we might as well change our thinking. What if we go back in time and solve the cause of U's death?" The more Erudia listened, the more mysterious it became, and the look in his eyes at Mo Bai became more and more unreliable. "Go back in time? How is this possible? You must know that even your own arc of time is not enough to support traveling back to the past across time and space." But Mo Bai didn't seem too concerned and changed the topic. "Devil's Heart made sufficient preparations before assassinating me, which is enough to show that you have a fairly reliable intelligence network for gathering information. Am I right? Erudia nodded angrily, and Mo Bai continued. But even if we look at the entire kingdom, I'm afraid only a few people in the royal family know about this matter. 400 years ago, in order to defeat Acnologia, the magicians at that time created a device that connected the past, present, and future, called the Eclipse Gate. The magic of the Eclipse Gate is different from your arc of time. It is enough to support people to go back to the past or go to the future. I'm thinking that if we can make good use of the Eclipse Gate, we might be able to go back to the day when you fought with Deliora and prevent her from using absolute ice. This is also the plan that Mo Bai had been conceiving before meeting Erudia. He didn't want to be like Xerath, who was cursed for resurrecting the dead and suffered hundreds of years to remain immortal. Eclipse Gate is the safest way. After all, while watching anime, Mo Bai had seen Lucy from the future travel to the present and try to change history, and finally succeeded. Seeing Mo Bai's serious look, Erudia asked the letter, "Where is the Eclipse Gate now?" "Royal Palace. But it's useless for you to know that the Gate of Eclipse will not open until enough magic power is absorbed." Mo Bai spread his hands and said calmly, "Then what's the use of all this?" Perhaps because he was too eager to see his mother, Erudia suddenly became a little annoyed. But according to Mo Bai's character, naturally, I can't coddle her at this time. Hey, I've tolerated you for a long time from just now. If you don't choke when you talk, will you die? After saying the words fiercely, Mo Bai directly reached out and pinched one of Erudia's cheeks and squeezed it hard. It wasn't until Erudia struggled and cried out in pain that Mo Bai slowly stopped. I have to say, this is the first time he pinched a little girl's face. It feels delicate, smooth, and elastic, and I really want to poke it twice, even though it was stained with some snot from crying just now. But it's harmless. Erudia rubbed his face that was red from being pinched and whispered, I was too impatient just now, don't mind? Forget it, forget it." Mo Bai waved his hand and continued. "The opening of the Eclipse Gate requires two conditions. The first is to absorb enough magic power, and the second is the star spirit key of the Zodiac. Both are indispensable. Don't worry about the key to the Zodiac. I will take care of it. As for absorbing the magic power, you'll have to wait for a while, even a few years. But I can make a guarantee with you. When the time comes, I will work with you across time and space to change the trajectory of Ulu's life. In addition, regarding everything about the Eclipse Gate, you can investigate it yourself in the future to see if what I said is true or false." Erudia bit her red lips with her teeth. It wasn't until Mo Bai finished explaining a lot of things eloquently that she asked timidly, "But why do you want to help me?" "Well, just think of it as helping Gray realize his long-cherished wish." Mo Bai scratched his head and hesitated. In fact, Mo Bai's regrets about the Ulu mother and daughter are also deep in his heart, and naturally he will not stand idly by. Mo Bai immediately asked, "Then what are your plans next? Are you going to return to the Devil's Heart and become Hades's 7 descendants of Purgatory?" Erudia hesitated. Although Mo Bai has proposed a way for her to see Ulu again, it is still unknown whether it is feasible. By following Hades, you can at least have a little more hope. But once she returns to the heart of the devil, it means that she will continue to slaughter lives as a dark guild, and her hands will continue to be stained with blood. If one day I really see my mother Ulu again, let her know her identity as a witch. Erudia could no longer imagine that situation. Mo Bai looked at the distant sky meaningfully, and then said, "I can understand your dilemma. I have an idea now. Do you want to hear it?" "What can I do?" "You must have heard about the collective escape of the 6 demon generals from prison some time ago, right?" Erudia frowned slightly. "That was also done by you?" Mo Bai smiled and said nothing. "After I brought them out of prison, I established an independent guild called the Witch's Sin, and asked them to clean up the dark guild that was raging on this continent. I promised them that as long as they persist until the day when the dark guild is completely destroyed, they will receive an amnesty from the kingdom and their innocence will be restored." Erudia seemed to hear the implication of Mo Bai's words. "You mean, let me join them to defeat the Dark Guild?" Mo Bai said, "I do mean this, but I don't want you to go find them now." "Then, when should I go?" Erudia asked confused. Let's talk about it after we meet next time. Next time meet? Mo Bai smiled. If my guess is correct, your assassination operation is not just targeting me, right? Your target is actually the entire fairy tale guild. Urrutia was startled. A look of astonishment slowly emerged, and he couldn't help but look at Mo Bai with a bit more surprise and fear. After a long time, she finally said hoarsely, I finally know how the 6 demon generals fell into your hands. Apparently, everyone at Devil's Heart had previously made a fatal error in their judgment regarding Mo Bai's intelligence. Originally, in Urrutia's opinion, Mo Bai could only do some tricks at best. But it wasn't until now that she realized how much depth lurked in this seemingly elegant goblin. Chapter 72 So Life, she is as bitter as a song. Urrutia said slowly. President Hades has been eyeing your guild a long time ago, and as far as I know, he will personally lead the entire Devil's Heart attack soon. When Mo Bai heard this, his face also showed a little solemnity. Calculate the time. The Devil's Heart launches a massive attack, probably during Fairy Tale's S-Class Mage assessment in the near future. By then, I'm afraid we'll have to face a tough battle. What's even more terrifying is that once they fight, they may also attract the ultimate boss of this world, the Black Dragon Acnologia. Urrutia continued. In addition to our 7 descendants of Purgatory, Devil's Heart also has a vice president named Brunat. If the assassination attempt on you failed this time, President Hades will definitely not give up. It is very likely that the person who comes to kill you next time will be Brunat. After I go back, if I hear any bad news about Fairy Tale, I will try my best to inform you. Mo Bai nodded and cast a grateful look at Urrutia. Thank you very much. Nothing. But apart from my mother's matter, I have a question to ask you. Ask anything, Mo Bai said. He was all ears. Playing with the crystal ball in his hand, Urrutia said, after you practice the arc of time to a certain extent, you can predict part of the future by instilling magic power. I have tried it many times before, but just a few months ago, something seemed to have malfunctioned in the arc of time, and all the illusions of the future that had been predicted suddenly disappeared. After investigation, I discovered that a small space-time crack appeared in the sky over the kingdom, which changed the original time trajectory, and the magical aura emanating from the space-time crack happened to be exactly the same as yours. Mo Bai was shocked. A few months ago? A rift in space and time? Wouldn't that just correspond to the scene he just traveled through? Mo Bai thought for a moment and asked in a deep voice. So will the emergence of that space-time rift have any impact? Urrutia shook his head. It's hard to say, but judging from the performance of the crystal ball, many things that were going to happen seem to have some subtle changes. Or what impact will it have on the flow of time? But the space-time crack doesn't seem to be big. As long as we don't disturb it, it shouldn't have any catastrophic effects. Mo Bai rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Is this so? Seeing that Mo Bai seemed to know nothing about it, Urrutia stopped asking too much and stood up to drag his limping body away. I'm leaving it to you regarding the Eclipse Gate? Of course. Under oblique light. Watching Urrutia leave, Mo Bai sat on the edge of the waterfall in relief, admiring the scenery while praying silently. So life, she is as bitter as a song. I hope the Eclipse Gate plan can go smoothly. Fate has been too unfair to Urrutia and her mother, and they have suffered too much. Magnolia. Fairy Tale Guild. The hall was as noisy as ever. Crunch. As the door was pushed open, a short figure entered the hall, walking heavily towards the counter. President? Welcome back. Seeing Makarov, Mira Jane raised a smile and said. Makarov just nodded slightly, his expression still serious. Erza and Natsu are probably still in the guild, right? If you see them, tell them to go to the Haze Forest immediately. Mo Bai may be in danger. Mo Bai? Mira Jane suddenly became frightened and uneasy after hearing this. The dinner plate that was originally held in his hand was also dropped to the ground while shaking, making a crisp and shattering sound. No wonder I always feel uneasy today. Mina has been crying and can't be coaxed. President, what happened to Mo Bai? Makarov looked at the people in the guild who were still fighting without knowing it, lowered his head and said, Natsu said that Mo Bai was entrusted by Polyusica to go to the Haze Forest to collect some rare medicinal materials. But I just came back from Polyusica, and she said she didn't know anything about it, and she hadn't even been to Magnolia today. This, Mira Jane became more and more worried and turned around to run away to find Erza. Not even half a step away from the counter, there was a bang sound, and the door was forced open in some rough way. "I'm back!" Everyone, including Makarov and Malaj, turned their gazes, and what caught their eyes was Mo Bai, who had not folded the wings of the storm dragon behind him. As soon as they saw Mo Bai, Macau and Wakaba immediately squeaked out from between their teeth and teased, "Hey, isn't this someone? What's his name?" "It doesn't matter what his name is. You just need to know that he is the only man in the entire guild who enters the women's bathroom." Obviously, they are still brooding over what happened before Mo Bai set off. These two guys. Mo Bai laughed and cursed. He walked straight to the counter and greeted Makarov and Mira Jane. Mira Jane and Makarov looked at each other, and after a brief daze, ecstasy instantly filled their faces. "It'll be fine if you come back, and everything will be fine." Makarov couldn't help but ask, "I heard from Natsu that you seem to have been called by Polyusica?" Mo Bai shrugged nonchalantly. "It's fake. It's probably a naughty kid in town who just learned the magic of transformation and then deliberately pretended to be Granny Polyusica to play a prank." Regarding the Devil's Heart, Mo Bai plans to keep silent for the time being. After all, before parting ways in the Haze Forest, Urudia promised himself that he would convey all unfavorable news to Fairy Tail to him in a timely manner. There is no need to talk about these things anymore and make Makarov worry. Looking at Mira Jane's excited expression, and then looking at the broken pieces of the plate at her feet that had not been cleaned up, Mo Bai could roughly guess what had just happened to them. "Don't worry, Mira, I'm fine," Mo Bai comforted with a smile, leaning down and gently picking up the fragments piece by piece. "Let me do it. Be careful not to get scratched." Mira Jane's face was unconsciously filled with a hint of blush. Although he didn't show much on the surface, he started to think wildly in his heart. "It would be great if I were Erza. I will definitely give him a big hug at this time. Wait until everything is taken care of." Makarov quietly pulled Mo Bai aside. Mo Bai wondered, "What's wrong, President? What's going on with the guild?" Makarov shook his head. "It's not that important. It's about the snake girl you asked Gray to bring back earlier." Chapter 73, The Spicy Blue Man is Back. Makarov continued, "I want to see Polyusica today. The curse on the snake girl you asked Gray to bring back earlier has been lifted. She is a chubby girl with purple hair. But it seems that she has lost some memories, and she can't even remember her name. Polyusica named her Kinana for the time being." Mo Bai nodded, and the last stone in his heart fell to the ground. Kinana. In the first wave, Granny Lusica was not harmed by the demon's heart. Secondly, Caberios finally returned to his human form, and the agreement with Cobra was completed. Mo Bai suggested, "President, after a while Kinana recovers her health and brings her to the guild to work. Mira will be busy taking care of little Mina, so she can also come to help." Makarov readily agreed immediately, with a smile on his face. "Okay, the guild is going to have new female members." Another morning of staying in bed. Warm air blew into the bedroom through the screen window, gently caressing Mo Bai, who was still dating the young lady in a magical dream. He was completely unaware that the table, chairs, and the half-empty juice in the glass were quietly trembling at this moment. As the tremors continued to intensify, drops of juice kept dancing and splashing, resonating with the glass and causing slight displacements. Gradually, he came closer to the table. "Pa!" The crisp sound of the glass breaking reached my ears. Mo Bai was awakened instantly, sat up and looked at the messy floor and everything around him that was still trembling. WTF? Was there an earthquake? Maybe it's the instinct engraved in my bones. Mo Bai casually picked up a pair of shorts, activated the storm dragon wings, and quickly broke through the window to escape, jumping in midair outdoors. Only then did Mo Bai discover that not only the area near his home, but also the entire town of Magnolia seemed to be shaking violently, with increasing amplitude. A drop of cold sweat dripped from his forehead. Is Magnolia located in some earthquake zone? Just when Mo Bai thought it was indeed an earthquake, suddenly, a blue messenger bird flew past my eyes. It was small and exquisite and looked quite familiar. Isn't this a mechanical bird that delivers orders? Malaj's hometown, Garak village, was invaded by demons before. The half-finished order was sent by this bird, and Mo Bai still remembered it. It's just different from before. This time, the mechanical bird didn't carry any entrusted yellow paper. Instead, it held a trumpet in its mouth. Make a loud announcement every time you fly over a certain distance. Attention! Attention! Guild Arts is about to return. Magnolia is about to enter Guild Arts mode. Please be prepared for all the townspeople. Attention! Attention! Guild Arts is about to return. Magnolia is about to enter Guild Arts mode. So all townspeople should be prepared. Notice! Mo Bai was stunned immediately. Guild Arts? The spicy blue man is back. In Fairy Tale, apart from the President Makarov, the 5 S-class mages are recognized as the most powerful. 3 of them, Mo Bai, have already been in contact, namely the demon Mira Jane, the Fairy Queen Erza, and Laxus, who was temporarily expelled from the guild. Although on the eve of the Civil War, when Laxus invited Mo Bai to join, he claimed to be the strongest member of the Fairy Tale Guild at present. But that's also based on the fact that Guild Arts' return from the mission is far away. If Guild Arts were present, not even Laxus would dare to claim to be the strongest. Slowly coming back to his senses from the memories, a look of ecstasy gradually appeared on Mo Bai's face. Finally got a chance to meet the top wizard of Fairy Tale. After a simple wash and tidy up, Mo Bai activated the wings of the Storm Dragon and flew directly to the Fairy Tale Guild. Taking a bird's-eye view of Magnolia below, its appearance has changed drastically due to the earthquake just now. From the entrance of the town to the Fairy Tale Guild, a long, narrow, and straight road leads directly to the 2 places. The houses that were originally blocking the road were also pushed to the left and right due to the tectonic movement just now. Mo Bai couldn't help but smile bitterly. Is this the Guild Arts model? Because Guild Arts' magic power is too powerful, and he uses magic that can crush everything, often because of being in a daze or being distracted while walking. He accidentally completely destroys the building next to him. Therefore, whenever he returns to the guild, Magnolia is always forced to activate Guild Arts mode, which can be regarded as a kind of protection for the town. Fairy Tale Guild. In the hall. Bang! And Mo Bai was so excited that he kicked the door open. In the lively guild, the attention of everyone who was originally lined up to welcome him suddenly focused on this. Right in front of Mo Bai's field of vision, a middle-aged man in black robe whom he had never met before slowly turned back. This tall and burly middle-aged man looks to be in his 40s, with orange slicked back hair and some small stubble. Looks a little sloppy. It seemed that he was looking at Mo Bai's face. The uncle's eyes were wide and small, and his expression was a little confused. 0.0? Before Mo Bai could speak, Makarov jumped down from the counter where he usually sat and walked directly between the 2 of them. Let me introduce you. Mo Bai. This is Guild Arts, the strongest fighter in Fairy Tale, whom I mentioned to you before. Gildas, this is Mo Bai, who has joined the guild less than half a year ago. He is a very strong newcomer. Upon hearing Makarov's introduction, Guild Arts nodded thoughtfully and extended his right hand in a friendly manner. Mo Bai also suppressed his inner excitement. Uncle G. Mo Bai was about to stretch out his hand and shake it with Gildas. But there was a familiar strange scream coming from the door, which immediately attracted his attention. Wow, I heard Guild Arts is back? Come and have a good fight with me, right away. Before the guild members in the hall could react, they saw a fiery red figure rushing past. Natsu. Fire Dragon's Iron Fist. Natsu started his hand at 0 frame, bursting out with a blast of hot flames, and struck Guild Arts' body with his fire fist. Clear goals and completely ignore other people. Since he and Erza's team have been performing various tasks one after another, Natsu's strength has also grown by leaps and bounds. According to Mo Bai's observation, most of the people present in the guild would not be able to easily receive the iron fist of the fire dragon from the front. But If the opponent becomes Gildarts, Mo Bai can only pray that Naz will not be slapped to death. When Gildarts came back to his senses and saw Natsu, he immediately waved his arms happily. Crack! Then he slapped Natsu away. Your way of greeting is very special, Natsu. Yes, is it? In the blink of an eye, Natsu, who was full of energy 1 second, had no fighting spirit and was foaming at the mouth the next. Because Gildarts used too much force, Natsu's body was still embedded in the ceiling at this moment, and he squeezed out a few words from his mouth. Hey, can any kind-hearted person passing by help me to pick it off? Chapter 74, What's in Uncle G's Backpack? The members of the guild have long been accustomed to this scene. Natsu is still the same as when he was a child. Every time he meets Gildarts, he goes up to challenge him regardless of his own abilities. Yeah, but the result is the same every time. Either I'm pushed to the ground with a blaster, or I'm knocked to the roof. Haha, Gildarts is still as strong as expected. By the way, it has been 3 years since he took on the century-old mission this time, right? I wonder how the completion progress is. Gildas was still greeting everyone enthusiastically. When he heard this, he scratched his head in embarrassment. It's a bit embarrassing to say it. The mission failed. Sure enough, I'm not strong enough to carry it out. Macau, who was watching the excitement on the sidelines, couldn't help but ask in surprise. Is that century-old mission so difficult? Gildas nodded silently, with a bitter smile. President Makarov disagreed. It doesn't matter. The Centennial mission is a task that no one has been able to complete since the establishment of the guild. It's good to be able to come back safely. Is this so? After listening to Makarov's explanation, everyone realized how dangerous Gildarts' trip was. Gildarts shook his head as if nothing had happened, and then asked, calculating the time, this year's S-Class Magician assessment will be less than 2 months, right? Yeah, it's another year. Wait a minute, you won't be able to take this exam. Gildas suddenly smiled heartily. This is also one of the purposes of my coming back. 2 months later, I will also appear in the assessment as an instructor. I'm looking forward to which lucky child will meet me then. Oh. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone started to discuss again. It seems that this year's S-Class Magician assessment will be more exciting than before. I wonder if I will be qualified for the assessment. Save it, Wakaba, and just be your smoker. At least it's certain that no matter who is the unlucky guy who draws Gildarts, he can declare failure in advance, right? Not necessarily. I think Mo Bai is pretty good. Among the crowd, someone suddenly said this. After a brief silence, a more heated discussion broke out. It's just that this time, in addition to Gildas and assessment, Mo Bai was also involved in this topic. Huh? That's right. Hasn't Mo Bai already had strength comparable to that of the Holy Ten? I'm afraid even the president may not be able to defeat him. I can't wait to see him fight Gildarts. Now, even Gildas's own attention was drawn to it. Oh, Mo Bai? What a familiar name. Did you hear about it somewhere just now? Why can't you remember? Gildarts tilted his head and thought for a while. For a long time. Then he looked at Mo Bai, whose face was full of black lines. Uncle G, is my sense of existence that low? Gildarts suddenly realized it, patted Mo Bai on the shoulder cheerfully, and said with a smile, Oh, so that Mo Bai is you. Mo Bai rolled his eyes speechlessly. How careless is this uncle? Bang! At the same time, Natsu finally fell from the ceiling and fell heavily in front of the two of them. But Natsu couldn't see any frustration on his face. He didn't even have time to pat the dust on his body before he said happily, Hey, Gildarts, how about you and Mo Bai have a fight now? I just want to know who is stronger between the two of you. This. Gildas raised his eyebrows lightly and looked at Mo Bai next to him, as if asking for advice. To be honest, Mo Bai has already had the idea of playing against Gildas. Since coming to this world, it seems that I have never encountered an opponent who truly felt helpless. I wonder if Gildas will be the first? I have no objection, Uncle G. Mo Bai replied with a slight smile. As soon as they heard that there was going to be a fight, everyone in the guild who always liked to watch the fun also echoed. It seems you made the right decision not to go to work today. There is such a good show to watch. Kana, I want to place a bet. I'm betting on Gildarts to win. Wait, where's Kana? I don't know. She is indispensable at times like this in the past. Where did she go today? I guess I'm on a mission, right? No matter, I'll go outside to get the best position first, so I can see it clearly later. Looking at the noisy crowd, a trace of bitterness appeared on Gildart's weather-beaten face, and he spoke slowly and apologetically. To be honest, I'm a little tired after completing the mission. I don't want to participate in any more battles for the time being. I'm sorry, everyone. What a pity. Hearing the sighs from the crowd, Kildas immediately changed the topic and said to Mo Bai, "How about this? As long as you can guess what's in my backpack, we can go out and compete now. If you can't guess it, then you can only wait for the S-Class Magician assessment before looking for a chance." As Gildas spoke, he put down the heavy backpack on his back and stood in the center of the hall. The black outer skin of the backpack is like an indestructible barrier, wrapping the items inside tightly and making them elusive. Everyone couldn't help but fell in a deep thought. Lucy quietly poked Gray's elbow next to her and asked in a low voice, "Gray, what kind of pig do you have? I guess they are more powerful magic items, right? After all, if Gildarts is going on a 100-year mission, no matter how powerful he is, he will buy some items for emergencies, right? But didn't the president say before that Mo Bai has a minor magic that can see other people's past? It shouldn't be difficult to guess the items through the backpack, right? Please be quiet first and let Mo Bai think carefully. Seeing that everyone has high hopes, Mo Bai Yali Mountain is big. How can I guess? How do I know what he will have in his bag? It would be great if Senior Brother was here. I could turn into a little flying insect and get in there to have a look." Mo Bai frowned, scratched his ears, and hit his head. Thinking of the reminders and suggestions given to him by everyone in the guild, there was still no pig. In silence, Natsu could no longer hold back in the back row and yelled at the top of his lungs, "Hey, don't guess wrong, Mo Bai. I can't see the result of your victory or defeat, so I don't know who to surpass first." "Natsu!" Mo Bai glanced at Naz distressfully. A vague memory suddenly appeared in my mind. Wait a minute, I remember that Uncle G and Natsu got the wrong backpack one time, right? Natsu accidentally shook all of Uncle G's things out. Let me think about it. There seemed to be something inside the backpack at that time. Looking at Mo Bai, who was gradually becoming more confident, Gildas smiled slightly, stepped forward and asked, "How's it going? Do you have an answer?" Chapter 75, Trial Battle Against Gildarts. Hexagon Warrior Mo Bai. I guess the backpack contains all the photos of the cover girls of Magic Weekly. Mo Bai was decisive. Clam? Everyone in the guild widened their eyes almost at the same time, with shock on their faces. Never expected. Mo Bai thought about it for a long time and finally came to such a nonsense conclusion. "No, Mo Bai. We can understand if you don't want to fight Gildarts, just say so. But if you insist on saying that he has those things in his backpack, isn't it bad? Yeah, how could Gildarts have that kind of hobby? I always thought I was the only one who was passionate about collecting those covers. Put Gildas's matter aside for now. Foster father, please lend me a piece of music to speak." Mo Bai ignored the reactions of others and looked up at Gildas slightly, waiting quietly for his response. They looked at each other for a long time. Ha 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 ha. An intriguing smile finally appeared on Gildas's face, and he turned and walked towards the guild gate. "I'll wait for you outside. If you're ready, come out and spar at any time." The rich voice echoed in the hall. Everyone looked at each other in shock, and their jaws dropped to the ground in shock. The worldview collapsed. Accept invitation to discuss. Doesn't this mean that Mo Bai's guess was right? That the stuffed backpack actually contained a photo album of the female wizard? Underneath Gildart's tough guy appearance, he is actually quite romantic. After a while, the open space outside the guild was already crowded with magicians who were watching the fun, and the two people facing each other in the center of the field. One is the undisputed strongest mage in the current fairy tale guild, who has just returned from a century-old mission with his life saved. The other is a newcomer who has become famous in just a few months after joining the guild. He has fought against powerful enemies several times without ever being defeated. There is no doubt that this will be the most exciting internal battle so far. Gildas's vicissitudes of life showed some appreciation for Mo Bai, and he said in a deep voice, "Since it's just a simple competition, each of us will only use 7% of our strength and reserve the strongest killing move." What do you think? No problem. Mo Bai licked his lips to show his fighting spirit and readily agreed. But he began to think carefully in his heart. The secret of Dragon Slayer has been banned. If you want to defeat Uncle G, it seems you have to try some other methods. Gildas gently loosened his black robe. Magic power suddenly broke out, and he got into a fighting stance. Mo Bai was also not to be outdone. The blazing flame aura emitted from his whole body and condensed in his right fist, accumulating continuously. Fire Dragon's Iron Fist. Mo Bai shot out suddenly, using his fire fist to attack from the side. A trace of astonishment appeared on Gildas's face. Oh, the same fire attribute dragon-slaying magic as Natsu? It's really not that simple. Break down. A fine network of magic emitted from Gildart's palm. Although it did not contain much magic, Mo Bai hurriedly turned sideways to avoid it. This decomposition magic may seem weak, but it can actually decompose the opponent's already condensed attack magic power. If he didn't avoid it, when the fist actually hit Gildart's, it would probably not be much different from a slap on the back. Storm Dragon Wings. Seeing the giant white net closing in, Mo Bai no longer hesitated. His wings spread out, and he quickly jumped into the air. The giant net completely covered the original location. If he didn't get airborne in time and was caught in the net, he would probably have to consume a lot of magic power just to get out. When Gildas saw this, his face became more serious. It seems that Mo Bai has mastered many types of magic, and he can even fly. This one was harder to deal with than he thought. Crush. When Gildart's body showed a more domineering magical aura, everyone onlookers also realized that he was going to take action for real. Crush is a magic with more destructive power based on decomposition. Most magic will be completely destroyed and lose its original power the moment it is released. In addition, crushing is extremely harmful to the human body itself. If you are not careful, your internal organs may be shattered. The cave dragon's shield. Seeing the majestic, crushing magic power under his body coming towards him, Mo Bai immediately mobilized the power of the rock to resist. Under everyone's gaze, the moment the two magic powers came into contact, the originally hard brown high shield was cut open in countless gaps, and then the shattered magic power penetrated directly through it and hit Mo Bai's body. Boom! Broken rock dust filled the air, whipping up a gust of wind and sand, covering Mo Bai's figure. Everyone was stunned. Is it over? Gildart's is still Gildart's after all? He directly penetrated that level of defense. Actually, if Gildart's can use Crush, Mo Bai's strength is quite good. Speaking of which, Gildart's should have made a measured move, right? Mo Bai shouldn't suffer too much damage. The so-called authorities are confused and bystanders are clear. The situation on the court at this moment seems to be exactly the opposite. No one knew what was happening to Mo Bai in the smoke. Only Gildas still looked up and stared with caution. During these few seconds of silence, the rock dust that filled the sky gradually began to dissipate. When everyone's interest was waning, the area covered by the rock dust became smaller and smaller. And when it seemed that no one's body could be hidden, one of the figures quickly moved out of it and swooped down. Look, Mo Bai is out. He actually blocked Gildart's full blow. Not only did he block it, but he also continued to attack in reverse. 666, this person is good. I saw Mo Bai covered in darkness, as if he was wearing a close-fitting steel armor. The thunder arcs around him are constantly tossing and jumping, and the violent aura is stirring, and it is as powerful as breaking bamboo. Thunder Dragon's collapsed fist. Gildas couldn't help but grin. Mo Bai was indeed an opponent he could face head-on. Whether it's offense and defense, or the willpower he shows in the face of battle, this little guy is really good. Do you still want to use various magic moves to find my weaknesses and wait for opportunities to attack? Gildas finally stretched out his left arm that had been hidden under his black robe. It was actually an iron prosthetic leg. However, Gildas didn't care. Together with his intact right arm, he regrouped the crushing magic power to attack Mo Bai. But this time, Mo Bai did not choose to avoid its sharp edge, and his body carrying the power of thunder and lightning suddenly fell. He wants to confront Gildart's head-on. The magic power collided head-on, and a magic wave that was even more terrifying than before suddenly erupted. Those spectators who originally claimed to have a good seat to watch the fight could not help but retreat crazily at this moment. If I get involved by these two great gods, I'm afraid I'll either be missing an arm or a leg. Gildarts couldn't help but smile bitterly as he looked at Mo Bai, who was standing close to him with an expressionless expression on his face as he resisted the crushing magic. Forget it, as long as his magic power is slightly reduced, I will stop immediately. Such a good seedling can't be hurt. But as the magic power of the two parties continued to tear apart, Mo Bai didn't show any signs of shrinking until a few cracks appeared on his body and a faint amount of magic power leaked out. Gildas finally noticed something was wrong. Wait, this isn't him at all? This is just an afterimage imbued with a lot of lightning magic. Chapter 76, Mist Gang's Request. The next moment, under the constant erosion of the crushing power, Mo Bai finally couldn't resist it, and his body turned into a golden thunder and lightning, dissipating in the air. Gildas did not show any relief, because at this time, he suddenly noticed a chill coming from behind him. Look back subconsciously. In front of him was Mo Bai, who was wearing a steel skin. At this moment, his right arm had turned into a dark iron sword, the tip of which was pointed directly at him. Mo Bai smiled lightly. Uncle G, I accept it. The screen freezes for a few seconds. It wasn't until he saw Gildarts smiling and nodding to himself that Mo Bai put away the iron sword with peace of mind. Just when he used the cave dragon shield to resist the smash, this risky strategy flashed through Mo Bai's mind. By infusing a large amount of magic power to strengthen the resistance of the lightning shadow, pretending to attack from the front, in fact, his own body took the opportunity to make a surprise attack from the other side. This gives you a chance to win. Gildas walked forward slowly and extended his right hand to pat Mo Bai on the shoulder affectionately. To be able to create lightning afterimages in such a short period of time to attract my attention is to be feared. If you hadn't spared that blow just now, even I would have been seriously injured. I'm really looking forward to meeting you in the S-Class Wizard exam in 2 months' time. Then, let's each use our highest level. Mo Bai also smiled back. What I wish for. The audience not far away looked at the two people chatting and laughing, and couldn't help but look at each other, still immersed in the battle, just now. In just 1 minute, Gildas, who originally had the upper hand, was directly defeated now? Macau and others scratched their heads and asked around. At this moment, they didn't even understand how Mo Bai won. So, Mo Bai really won? Indeed. But I feel like Gildarts is still letting his guard down. If both parties try their best to use their trump cards, the outcome is unknown. It seems that if we want to see the two of them fight with all their strength, we can only wait until the S-Class Magician assessment. Among all the people in the discussion, there was only one Natsu, and his focus was always different. I understand, as long as I knock Gildarts away someday, I will be able to beat Mo Bai again. Then I will know the whereabouts of a beginner. Haha! The battle is over. Everyone returned to the guild hall one after another. But the enthusiasm for the discussion did not diminish at all. Mo Bai followed the team at the end. Half a foot has just stepped through the door. Suddenly, I felt an unusual cold wind in my buttocks, which was also mixed with a bit of magical energy. Mo Bai's face, which was originally full of smiles, suddenly looked dignified, and he immediately made the worst plan in his mind. The people in Devil's Heart are going to take action so soon, but when Mo Bai looked back, this thought disappeared. Not far from the street, directly opposite the guild, there was a masked man hidden under a blue and black cloak standing. The breath just now came from him. Only the eyes of the masked man were exposed, and the arms, legs, and feet that could not be covered by the cloak were also covered with a thick layer of bandages. It's like being seriously injured. Although it was his first time meeting him, Mo Bai was no stranger to this masked man. Mistigan, there are a total of 5 fairy tale S-Class magicians. Counting Gildarts, whom he just met today, 4 of them have already dealt with him. The remaining one is the mysterious cloaked man who rarely appears in the guild, Mist Gang. Mo Bai couldn't help but think. Gildarts has returned, and there is still quite some time before the S-Class Magician assessment. The appearance of Mist Gang at this time There must be some problem in his world, and it is probably something that will affect the entire guild. At the same time, across the street, Mist Gang also noticed that Mo Bai's attention was attracted to him. He simply turned around and left, turning into a deep alley. The figure disappeared. This guy deliberately leaked a little magical energy in front of me and then escaped? Mo Bai shook his head helplessly. I've already guessed that Mist Gang is looking for me for something. My personality is more boring than mine. You obviously wanted to ask me for help, but you ran away first. Alas, no way. Mo Bai's body turned into a golden thunder and lightning, and he chased directly in the direction where Mr. Gang disappeared. In a dark alley. Following the scent, Mo Bai soon found a cloaked man named Mr. Gang who was waiting for him at the deepest point. A hoarse voice came from under the dark blue mask. "Hello, Mo Bai." Mo Bai waved his hand. No need to say polite words. "You come to me at this time. It must be related to the Edolas matter, right?" Mr. Gang couldn't help but be startled when he heard this. A long while passed. Only then did Mr. Gang come back to his senses and said slowly, "I've heard before that you have a special ability to see through the past. I didn't expect it to be true." Mo Bai shrugged noncommittally. The world Mo Bai is in at this moment, whether it is the Fairy Tale Guild, the entire town of Magnolia, or even the Kingdom of Fiori and the entire continent of Ishgar, they all belong to this world called Aslant. In another dimension, there is another world similar to the parallel universe called Edolas, including most people in Fairy Tale, Natsu, Gray, Lucy, and Edolas all have another version of themselves in the world. The appearance is almost identical, but the personality is different. But what is different from the Aslant world that Mo Bai and the others are in now is that the magic energy in the world of Edolas is limited, and you cannot use magic as much as you can hear. Due to this situation, the magicians of Edolas can only cast magic with the help of magic tools, instead of having magic power in their bodies like Mo Bai and others. To solve the energy crisis, King Edolas built the Seer robot and the space exploration spacecraft Seer to find the endless energy guarded by the legendary mysterious elves. Sorry for interfering. In order to solve the problem of dwindling magic power, King Edolas led his men to develop a super subspace magic called Anima that could absorb magic power from Aslant and transport it to Edolas. For 6 years, Anima has continuously opened tunnels to the two worlds and transported the source of magic. As for Mr. Gan, he was originally a prince from the world of Edolas. He came to Aslant alone because he opposed the king's actions and kept closing Anima. This has been his mission for many years. Therefore, when Mo Bai met him for the first time, he concluded that he was seeking help from him because of Edolas and Anima. Mo Bai said in a deep voice, "There are only 2 of us here, so there's no need to pretend, right? Be more honest." This, Mr. Gang put his right hand on the mask and was about to take it off when he suddenly hesitated. "My appearance might scare you," Mo Bai said calmly. "I know everything about Edolas. You are the Jalal of that world, right?" Mr. Gang suddenly smiled bitterly and took off the mask on his head. "Sure enough, I can't hide anything from you." What appeared in front of Mo Bai's eyes was a face with gold eyes and blue hair that was exactly the same as Jalal's who caused the Tower of Paradise incident. Although I am mentally prepared, but when Mo Bai saw this face again, his heart inevitably fluctuated. Mo Bai breathed a sigh of relief and finally got to the point. "Let's talk. Are you here because of what happened to Edolas? P.S. It's time to enter the Edolas chapter." Once again, I emphasize adding some settings for the Edolas chapter. The world where the protagonist group is located is called Aslant, and Edolas is a continent that evolved from a certain parallel time and space. The magic power in Edolas world is limited and will be used up one day, so it is very precious. The magicians of Edolas cannot use magic freely like Aslant. Magic must rely on magic tools to release, and people cannot actively practice magic. Since it is a parallel time and space, most people who appear in Aslant can find another version of themselves in Edolas. They look almost identical, but have many differences in personality and identity, such as Jalal and Mistgun. Chapter 77 Time Travel. Enter Edolas. Speaking of which, Mo Bai offered to go to Edolas, In addition to helping Mist Gang, there are two more important things to go to the Fairy Tale Guild here. Go back in time many years ago, the three Mirajane siblings were carrying out a commission. And at that time, the younger sister, Lysana, was seriously injured by elfmen who had received the beast's soul and went on a rampage. When Mirajane rushed to her side, she found that Lysana's body had gradually turned into nothingness. Mirajane still doesn't know why that happened. Everyone thought Lysana was dead for a while. As everyone knows, Lysana was transported to the world of Edolas by the embryonic anima by chance for several years. This trip was just in time to meet her again. Another thing is related to his own dragon-slaying power. If you remember correctly, the boss of Edolas seems to be an iron dragon. If you can eat that thing, maybe you can improve the secret of dragon slaying. I wonder what the secret that contains the power of the iron dragon would be like. It should be able to rival a dozen Gajeels, right? Mo Bai raised his head expectantly. Although Mo Bai usually sneaks into the guild's kitchen occasionally to steal an iron pot, a kitchen knife, or something. But after all, we are not in a combat situation, so it is difficult to bring out the potential in the body. If you want to further improve the power of Dragon Slayer Mystery, you have to go through actual combat. Mr. Gang glanced at Mo Bai quickly and heard the willingness to help in his tone, and immediately introduced him seriously. Recently, I feel more and more the terrifying power emitted by anima hovering over Magnolia. I suspect that Edolas is probably planning to send all the magicians from the Fairy Tale Guild at once. Having said this, Mistgang couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. Even he himself couldn't believe that the Edolas gang had such a big appetite. I have turned off many anima devices before, but this time its power is particularly powerful, and I can't do anything about it, so I found you. After listening to what Mr. Gang said, Mo Bai couldn't help frowning. When will the anima activate this time? The fastest, it might be tomorrow, Mistange said worriedly. Mo Bai breathed a sigh of relief. There's still time. What do you need me to do? Mr. Gang re-observed his surroundings and once again made sure that no one was around, then revealed his plan in full. I want to use teleportation magic to send you to the world of Edolas, defeat the royal army, and completely crush the anima plan from its roots. Mr. Gang's staff can teleport up to 2 magicians at a time, including himself, and consumes a huge amount of energy. After witnessing the battle between Mo Bai and Kildas, he hesitated and finally chose Mo Bai as his teammate. The words fell. Mr. Gang glanced at Mo Bai anxiously, waiting for his response. Mo Bai thought for a long time and then asked, "If I remember correctly, you should be the prince of the Edolas world, right?" Mistigan nodded. "So, all we need to do is beat your father away, right?" Mistigan was speechless and choked. Although this is true in theory, it sounds like a filial piety. But at least Mo Bai agreed to go with him in a sense. As Mr. Gang put on his mask again, he poked the 5 strange-shaped magic wands on his back at a nearby corner and chanted in a low voice. After a short stay, a huge magic circle immediately appeared under the 2 people's feet, and purple light enveloped their entire bodies. Mo Bai began to feel that his body became light, and his vision became blurred. Only the hearing was still clear, and the loud reminder from Mist Gun reached my ears. Be careful. Under the influence of anima, the teleportation magic has become extremely unstable now, and it is very likely that we will be sent to a dangerous corner of Edolas. After a while, when Mo Bai and Mr. Gang regained sight, they were no longer in the deep alley just now. The surrounding area also turned into an endless desert plain. As far as the eye can see, everything is a desolate brown color. Mo Bai raised his eyes and looked straight ahead. In front of us are factory buildings, which look particularly majestic in the desert. It's just that the towering chimneys are constantly spewing black smoke, which is not environmentally friendly at first glance. On the periphery of the field, from time to time, there would be coolies pushing carts to transport some strangely shaped colorful ores passing by. Mo Bai couldn't help but look at it carefully. Is this a mining area? Mistigan nodded thoughtfully. The magic energy in Edolas is insufficient. On weekdays, the country will also use some means to mine magic ore. It seems that the scale of the mining area here is not small. Before Mo Bai could respond again, The sudden appearance of the two of them had already attracted the attention of the mine guards, who went on alert on the spot. A shrill siren sounded across the sky. In just a few seconds, then a large group of heavily armed soldiers rushed out and surrounded Mo Bai and Mr. Gang. The leader held a steel knife, the tip of which was pointed directly at Mo Bai, and asked sternly, "Who dared to trespass into the important mining areas of the kingdom?" But Mo Bai didn't take his warning into consideration at all. He turned around and joked to Mr. Gang beside him as if nothing had happened. "So enthusiastic, the folk customs in your world are quite simple." Faced with the siege, Mist Gun naturally had no intention of joking anymore. He took out a transparent vial from under his cloak, poured out a vermilion pill the size of a longan, and handed it to Mo Bai. "Eat this first." "Okay." Mo Bai understood immediately and swallowed the pill without hesitation. I suddenly felt full of power, suffering from the decline of Edolas magic. The magicians who came from Aslant, even if they were powerful, could not use magic normally. But fortunately, Mist Gang had already prepared for it. As long as he took this special pill, he would be able to use magic to fight as much as he did in the original world. Seeing that Mo Bai and Mist Gang did not explain themselves, the guards further confirmed their suspicious identities. Immediately, he waved the steel knife through the air, signaling for his men to capture and kill him. Looking at the soldiers approaching from all sides, Mo Bai's eyes became more intense. There must be no counsel in this world. It seems that we can make a big fuss without any scruples. Superior. As soon as the guard gave the order, the weapons in the hands of the soldiers all emitted magic aura and rushed straight towards Mo Bai. Mr. Gang's right arm quietly reached for the staff behind his back, but Mo Bai raised his hand and gently stopped him. "Leave it to me." Mr. Gang's lips moved, but he didn't make a sound yet. Then he saw Mo Bai's figure turned into a golden thunder and lightning, disappeared instantly. Ah! Almost at the same time, continuous screams were heard. Mr. Gang looked around. The 20-odd soldiers who were fully armed a second ago were all lying on the ground wailing and groaning. No one could stand up again. The paralysis effect of thunder has caused their bodies to lose their intuition for a short period of time. As for the weapons and equipment in their hands that were originally equipped with magical power, they were completely destroyed in Mo Bai's rapid attack just now. Although he already had a preliminary understanding of Mo Bai's strength, Mist Gang couldn't help but smack his lips after seeing this scene up close. Is this a terrifying strength comparable to Gildart's? Look around. At this moment, the only people left standing on the field were Mo Bai and Mr. Gang, as well as the mine guardian who was giving orders just now. The guard's face was livid, and his eyes that stared at Mo Bai were filled not only with fear, but also with fear. Just when the arc in Mo Bai's palm appeared again, he was about to take action to kill him too. Inside the gate of the mining area, a sinister old man's laughter suddenly came out. "Isn't this our traitorous prince? I haven't seen you for so long." I didn't expect that he went to other places to recruit reinforcements. The guard turned his head and looked at the gate. The moment he saw the old man, he was overjoyed. Lord Byro. Looking back at Mr. Hill, he was a little more cautious and dignified than before, reminding Mo Bai, "Be careful. That old man is Byro, the chief of staff of the Edolas Kingdom Army." Chapter 78. Are you ready to become Octopus Murako-chan? Mo Bai glanced briefly at Bailuo. This old man is slightly taller than Makarov, but he is far less kind than Makarov. Judging from his appearance, he looks more like some alchemist with strange habits in medieval stories. But after all, he is the chief of staff of the royal army and holds a high position of authority. The magic props he enjoys are naturally among the best in the entire kingdom. Therefore, Mr. Gang had to face up to this opponent. Bailuo looked directly at Mo Bai, with a strange smile on his face and wrinkles on his face. If I'm not mistaken, this should be a powerful Dragon Slayer wizard, right? His Royal Highness has a good vision and knows that our country lacks this kind of magic source. By implication, it seems that bringing Mo Bai to this world was already part of their plan. Naked sowing discord. Mo Bai still trusts Mist Gang's character, so he will naturally not listen to Bailuo's nonsense. Seeing that Mo Bai was not fooled, Bailuo no longer concealed his fangs at this moment, and slowly took the magic prop jar worn on his waist and opened it. I've long heard that magicians from other worlds have their own magical powers. You might as well open my eyes today. Liquid bomb! A few drops of orange viscous liquid were poured out from the tank and rolled quickly from midair towards Mo Bai. Mo Bai activated the fiery red dragon-slaying crystal in his body and gradually gathered the magic power in his chest. When the liquid bomb rolled down in front of him, and the unstable magic power in it was about to explode, the flames in Mo Bai's mouth finally burst out. The roar of the fire dragon. The rolling thick flames immediately swallowed up the liquid beads, making a crackling sound. Mo Bai didn't forget to wipe his mouth. Not far away, Bai Luo saw that his attack cup was easily resolved. Instead of being frightened, there was a playful and greedy smile on his face. Very good, very good. Have you seen the magic mine behind me? The magic, or these coolies' mine, for a year cannot compare to the magic power you have alone. I must capture you and keep you in the kingdom of Edolas forever to continuously provide the country with magic power. The more Mo Bai listened, the more awkward he became, and the corners of his mouth began to twitch. To put it bluntly, this old guy is greedy for his own body, and almost to the point of becoming obsessed with it. If he is really caught, he will probably be imprisoned and drained of magic power every day until the day he can no longer lift it up. After Bai Luo finished speaking, he took out some elixir from the jar and threw it into his mouth. Under the watchful eyes of Mo Bai and Miss Gang, Bairo's originally rickety body began to expand and grow, and his skin gradually turned bright red. The entire lower body changed drastically, and several fat tentacles stretched out. Looking up again, Bairo had transformed into a giant red octopus monster, almost as tall as the field behind him. Bairo opened his mouth wide and said with a serious smile, "Kid, are you ready to become a source of living magic?" But seeing this ferocious octopus beast, Mo Bai didn't feel scared. He just felt disgusted. Hearing Boa's arrogant provocation, Mo Bai resisted the urge to feel sick and retaliated with the same words. "Lao Deng, are you ready to become Octopus Morocco-chan?" Stubborn. Bai Luo snorted coldly, raised two fat tentacles, and slapped Mo Bai's position hard. There are also black suckers distributed on the tentacles, which invisibly adds a little more pressure. Boom! The tentacles fell down, instantly setting off waves of sand and mist on the desert. Mo Bai's figure was firmly pressed down, unable to move any further. Ha 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 ha! When Bai Luo saw Mo Bai's predicament, he just wanted to laugh a few more words. But suddenly he realized that there seemed to be a violent wave of magic power coming from under the tentacles that were resisting Mo Bai. What? A look of horror suddenly appeared on Bai Luo's face. In his eyes, a golden light suddenly flashed in his sight, cutting off the two heavy tentacles. Before the severed limb hit the ground, Mo Bai's body shot out from below. The wings appeared on his back, soared straight towards his face, and his pupils continued to enlarge. Jaws of the Thunder Dragon. The violent thunder and lightning magic power suddenly hit Bairo's head like a bolt from the blue. Bai Luo was severely injured, and then let out a scream. His body began to shrink and returned to the appearance of a human little old man. Fainted on the ground. As for the original mine guard, he was paralyzed on the side with a look of death. I originally thought that Bairo, the chief of staff of the Royal Army, would be saved when he came here. I didn't expect Mo Bai to be so fierce, and he killed Bai Luo instantly. Watcher, how about I just pretend to be dead and hope they don't find me? After Mo Bai finished the battle, he breathed a sigh of relief and set his sights on Mist Ridge again. Mr. Gang also realized at this time that his reminder to Mo Bai just now seemed completely redundant. To be fair, if he faced Bairo, it would be difficult to guarantee a thunderous victory in such a short period of time. "You are really strong, Mo Bai." Naturally, Mo Bai didn't want to listen to his polite words, so he waved his hand to bring the topic back on track. "What are you going to do next? Go directly to the palace?" Mistigan shook his head cautiously and suggested, "The Royal Army has a large number, and its strength should not be underestimated. To be on the safe side, how about you go to Fairy Tale in this world to bring in reinforcements first? At least the number of people can bring the situation back a little bit. This is a good idea. Just like Jelal and Miskin correspond to each other. As two parallel worlds, under the continuous evolution of time, the Fairy Tale Guild also exists in Edolas. Most of them correspond to members of Aslant's Fairy Tale Guild. In addition to moving reinforcements there, you can also find Lysana, who has been missing for several years. Mo Bai nodded slightly, and then asked, "Then where are you going now?" Chapter 79, Meeting Lysana for the first time. Mistigan forced a smile from the corner of his mouth. After all, I am the prince of this country. If possible, I still want to solve the problem in a non-violent way. I plan to first find a way to sneak into Anima's control base and find a way to completely shut down Anima, and then go to negotiate with my father. By then, he should have no other options. When I finish all this, I will meet you at the Fairy Tale Guild immediately. Mo Bai couldn't help but hear a clue. You are now an enemy of the country. If the negotiations break down, are you sure you can escape unscathed? Mr. Gang shook his head slightly. Although I am not as strong as Erza and Laxus, but at least I am still an S-class mage. Escape from the royal city should not be a problem. Okay, be careful with everything. Mo Bai saw this and stopped insisting. He took the handed Edolas map with both hands, opened the wings of the storm dragon, and flew forward. Mr. Gang had considered it quite carefully and had specially outlined all the important locations on the map. It's clear where the Fairy Tale Guild is. Based on the mine he was in just now, Mo Bai quickly determined his position. After flying for a long time, we are about to pass the edge of the desert. Speaking of which, no one in Edolas can use magic directly. They must use magic tools. In addition to Byro, I remember that there are 4 captains of the Kingdom's Army's magic warfare unit. They are also masters of using magic items. The edge of the desert is finally no longer filled with dust. Finally, I could see some scattered green vegetation and houses in the distance. Mo Bai looked down at the map again and crossed the grassland in front, not far from the Fairy Tale Guild. But at the junction of the desert and the grassland, there was some faint fluctuation, as if someone was fighting there. Mo Bai calmed down the magic aura on his body and slowly approached. Only then could he see the appearance of the combatants clearly. Mo Bai slapped his forehead fiercely and was overjoyed. Is she? She came at the right time. Grass Edge, a girl with short white hair and blue eyes, was trying her best to escape while dragging her injured body. Behind him, there were more than a dozen well-equipped soldiers of the Royal Army chasing after him. The girl's facial features were exquisite and pretty, but at this moment she was completely occupied by exhaustion, and her escape speed became slower and slower. He looked back at the pursuers in front of him, but he didn't pay attention to his feet and stumbled to the ground. The girl climbed up with difficulty and looked around, her beautiful eyes suddenly showing a look of despair. It seems I can't run away. If you look carefully, it is not difficult to find that the Fairy Tale Guild emblem is engraved on her thigh. The girl was none other than the sister Mira Jane, and Elfman thought about day and night, Lysana. However, facing the siege of the Royal Army at this moment, the unarmed Lysana was obviously in a great dilemma. Give up. All the magic items you carry have exhausted their magic power. There is no point in resisting. A sinister male voice came from behind Wang Guojun. When the soldier heard this, he immediately and respectfully made way for the man who spoke. Shaboy. Lysana suddenly took a breath of cold air, and the sadness between her brows became even more intense. Shujboy wears a pink armor. His yellow airplane hair is combed very neatly, and the lines on his face are also very obvious. Although he looks like a stinky pervert at first glance. Shujboy is the captain of the 4th Magic War Force of the Kingdom of Edolas, and he is quite powerful. Many members of Fairy Tale fell into his hands. Lysana relaxed slightly and straightened her body resolutely. Although there was uneasiness in his eyes, he was still determined to put up a defensive posture and prepare to resist to the end. Yo, the little goblin still plans to resist. A playful smile appeared on Shujboy's lips. However, he did not order his soldiers to attack, but slowly stepped forward alone with his sword in hand. His eyes were staring straight at Lysana's body, making her feel terrified. With every step forward, Lysana became more alert and nervous, seeing that there was only 3 or 4 meters left. "Get ready to be judged by the royal army," Shujboy shouted as he was about to raise his sword. But suddenly, I felt a terrifying magical force coming from midair, not far away, and approaching at a very fast speed. Shujboy's expression immediately changed drastically, and his figure subconsciously took a few steps back. Boom! With a loud crash to the ground, lightning flashed in front of everyone's eyes, flashing briefly and then quickly materializing. Looking closely, I realized it was a Taoist figure. A calm voice came from the figure. "How can you say that you are a regular soldier of the kingdom, and you are bullying a little girl like this?" The speaker was naturally Mo Bai. It was an unexpected surprise to meet Lysana before arriving at the Fairy Tale Guild in Edolas and help her out. Lysana behind her looked at Mo Bai's back blocking her in front of her, and asked in confusion, "Who are you?" Mo Bai said casually, We'll discuss who I am later. Let's get rid of this plain head first." Lysana hesitated, then nodded silently. At least, there is a little more hope of escape for the time being. Not far away. Faced with the sudden change, Shujboy's face turned livid. He brushed off the dirt on his armor and said gloomily, "Friend, since you know the identity of our royal army, you should also know that we will only use coercive measures against those who have committed the most heinous crimes." Afraid of the magical pressure emanating from Mo Bai, Shujboy tried his best to control his tone. Mo Bai raised his eyebrows slightly. "A person who has done the most evil?" Shujboy said grandly. "Of course, the king has already ordered the dissolution of guilds across the country. Only Fairy Tale and the others have been disobeying the order. I don't know how much trouble they have caused in the past few years." After he finished speaking, Shujboy glared at Lysana behind Mo Bai. "Finished," Mo Bai said expressionlessly. "That's it." Shujboy was still confident. "That's all. Then I'll take her away." Mo Bai grabbed the confused Lysana's wrist, turned around, and left. About 2 seconds later, looking at the backs of the two of them who had not taken a few steps, Shujboy recovered from his daze and suddenly became angry from embarrassment. "UBD, you dare to snatch the prisoner in front of the royal army? Stop them." Under Shujboy's order, the surrounding soldiers heard the sound and moved. The soldiers in the front line even overtook Mo Bai and Lysana, setting up weapons to block the direction of travel. Mo Bai and Lysana turned their heads again. Shujboy said sinisterly, "Although I don't know who you are, but for saving a wanted criminal so blatantly, you should also be guilty of it." Lysana looked embarrassed, stretched Mo Bai's clothes, and whispered, "The man in the middle is the captain of the royal army's 4th demonic war troop, Shujboy. The sword in his hand can soften everything it touches. If you want to fight him, it's best to do it quickly. I can only help you temporarily block other soldiers." When Mo Bai heard this, he shook his head lightly. "Don't force it. Just stay where you were later and leave it to me." This, Lysana frowned slightly and scanned the surrounding enemies again. Although the magic power Mo Bai showed just now is very strong. But after all, his opponent Shujboy is one of the top combat forces in Edolas, and the soldiers under his command all possess top-notch magic equipment.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.